5?
Or see them in person, 2940 South, 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Go check out their beautiful showroom. It's Peach Doors and Windows.
Jeff Kaplan.
When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my minute of news, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver Card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
KSL News Time, 8:59. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And we start with you, Heather.
We still have a couple of crashes. Northbound I-15 in Springville. They're about half a mile apart, but the worst one is blocking the right lane and shoulder before you get to 400 South. That's a multi-vehicle crash. It's causing a bit of delay into Spanish Fork. And then as you continue northbound, you're going to have long delays from Lehigh over the point of the mountain to 53rd South in Murray, where a crash is still in the cleanup stages on the left shoulder. Len.
Out near Park City, you've got that slow driving from Kimball Junction over toward the Highway 40 turnoff. And once you're on Highway 40, if you're coming up northbound off of Heber and Jordanelle State Park, you got a little bit slowing there as you make your way up toward the Park City exit. And in Davis and Weber counties, looking pretty clear right now. A little bit of slowing as you make your way just into the downtown area from North Salt Lake, but nothing major there. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than we did last year. Even though we don't need to, let's fix that. Water one day less each week. Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be beautiful but hot. Sunshine and a high of 92 degrees. Right now, it is 73 degrees downtown. Coming up, it is the inaugural show, Inside Sources, with Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, just ahead.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story, one of the two people who kidnapped Elizabeth Smart more than 20 years ago was back in court this morning to face new charges. Wanda Barzee is accused of going to two different Salt Lake City parks, which violates her terms as a registered sex offender. Elizabeth Smart herself spoke out about the arrest last month on her foundation's Instagram page.
I feel like I've been vocal about my concerns since Barzee's initial release, and this incident confirms exactly why.
Smart's other kidnapper, Brian David Mitchell, is serving a life sentence in federal prison. Barzee has been charged with 2 misdemeanors. Barzee could face prison time if found guilty. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Each of her charges carry up to a year in jail and a fine of up to $2,500.
After she went to prison, she was placed on parole for several years, but she completed that. So this isn't a parole violation. This is a sex offender registry violation.
KSL legal analyst and host of Inside Sources, Greg Skordas, says it will be a challenge to fight the charges.
There's really no defense, not much of an excuse to it. If you show up at a park, you are violating the law.
Barzee has a history of mental health issues, those of which could be taken into consideration today. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Hackers are posing as recruiters for well-known companies and sending out thousands of text messages with phony job offers. Alyssa Parker of the Better Business Bureau urges anyone who receives one to delete it.
We have a lot of people that come to us saying that they've been scammed because they had to pay in to become a part of this business. That is a huge red flag.
The FBI says the average loss to job text scams is $3,000. Your money at this moment. Right now, the Dow is off 94 points. That's 0.2%. We're at 42,668. Coming up, we've got a beautiful day, but a hot one in store. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This time of year, so many wonderful things are going on. First of all, there are graduations. There are many weddings. The list goes on. And you will be so pleased, and the person that maybe receives the gift will be so pleased if you include Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Maybe for a wedding luncheon, perhaps for a graduation celebration. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City. They will absolutely take care of you and your group. It's time to make your reservations and gift cards. By the way, in that graduation card that you're sending out, how about a gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse? Everything is always perfect. And don't forget, this is probably the most important thing of all, since I am a father. Father's Day! Don't overlook dear old Dad. He will love going to Ruth's Chris, that's a hint, Steakhouse, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Go from daydreamer to industry leader with Amazon Business. From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
Get a $15 prepaid MasterCard after rebate when you buy 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
The #1 rodeo in Utah is back, and it's a big one. The Western Stampede, celebrating 70 years. July 3rd through 5th. Rodeo, fireworks, carnival rides, a grand parade, and more. Come experience the legacy of one of Utah's most beloved rodeos. That's excitement and fun for the whole family. Celebrate this historic Western Stampede. It's an event you won't want to miss. Get your tickets now at westernstampede.com. Presented by Common Spirit.
Did you know 96% of Americans lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income? And it's because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. Don't lose $111,000 in Social Security income that's rightfully yours. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits on Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL. News Radio 102.7.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Michelle Rowe.
We have a new crash. This is northbound Highway 40, just west of Jordanelle Reservoir. Northbound I-15, typical slowdowns. You're going to see some slowdowns between Spanish Fork and Springville, and then again, Midvale into Murray. Southbound I-15, looking at delays as you're going just past the South Interchange. All machines are on sale starting at $199 at Dave's Bernina in Provo and St. George. Plus, limited time offer of 2.99% for 60 months financing. Amazing deals on used machines. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be a sunny week. Today we're looking at highs around 92 degrees. Right now it's 73. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
The idea of a peaceful protest in this country continues to morph. Good morning, I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson, and we're here to talk about the news of the day, and we're going to start with what's happening in Los Angeles. If you recall, the ICE agents there went to arrest some individuals who were, some were at a Home Depot and some were at a private business. Protesters showed up, and the protesters came and started getting in the face of the ICE agents, and one thing sort of led to another, not the least of which is now we are dealing with the National Guard having been deployed to Los Angeles by the President of the United States. And by the way, this is the first time since the 1960s that the President has deployed the National Guard to a state without the governor's permission. And in this case, Holly, it's over the governor's objection, really.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's one of the things that will be important as we continue this discussion, right? What rights do the states have versus the federal government when you've got protests like these going on?
Yeah, and it reminds me of a couple things. If you recall, years ago we had the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protests, where we had protesters showing up, but the people that were causing the damage weren't really part of the protest, and so it escalates the level of involvement by the government. And the same thing happened with the Palestinian displacement up at the universities and whatnot. We had protests going on that were largely peaceful, but people would show up who were not peaceful and who really weren't even part of the protest. I mean, you probably could even go to the January 6, 2021 insurrection. People showed up for other reasons than to just be part of the protest.
Right. And I think that's one of the things they've noted in L.A. recently is that the people who were showing up in the morning were peaceful protesters. I think everything stayed under control. But then even as the mayor noted, people who came then in the evening as it started to get dark were a lot more violent. And you were starting to see driverless vehicles being set on fire. There were things being launched over bridges. There were some, just some real clashes starting to go on.
We have some sound from Matt Gutman of ABC News, who was on the scene.
CHP, California Highway Patrol, deployed smoke. They're moving in, trying to push these protesters out. You can see some projectiles detaining someone there.
The LAPD mobilizing resources and LA's mayor pleading for calm.
Our city does not need to be torn apart.
Earlier Sunday, demonstrators swarming LA's federal building, hundreds of LAPD officers responding.
And let's turn to ABC's Alex Stone in Los Angeles, who has been talking with police officers about the National Guard being there.
At this point, the National Guard really has not been helpful. It's been the LAPD battling back the crowds. LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell says he would not have called up the National Guard the way the president did it. There are systems in place to ramp up to that. That's not saying he wouldn't want them or have eventually wanted them. The one thing that seems universally unwelcomed by law enforcement here would be President Trump's threat of sending in active duty Marines in the streets of L.A. Their training is different. They wouldn't be on police radio channels. The rules of engagement would be different. And frankly, police say it's just not needed and could inflame things even more locally.
And of course, he's talking about Pete Hegseth's indication that if this didn't get better, he would deploy Marines from local base to go on the
Camp
scene.
Pendleton right down there, yep.
and try to take care of the situation. So it just seems like, Holly, we're having a continued escalation between ICE agents doing what they thought was their job under the current administration and getting undocumented immigrants out of the workplace and getting them into where they could be deported. Protesters showing up and saying, hey, don't do this, standing in the way a little bit. Pretty soon we've got cars being turned over. We've got businesses being broken into. We've got people showing up. And the president's saying, Gavin Newsom, you're not doing your job. And the mayor of Los Angeles saying, well, wait a minute, we're trying to do the best we can. You're making it worse. Trump administration says, no, you're not doing enough to make it better.
Right. And, that's one of the issues that we're seeing is at what point, right, do you start to call in the National Guard? And why did the president say or feel like he needed to jump over the governor of this state who is like, we've got things under control, it's okay? Because I think you can make an argument that the presence of the National Guard actually was part of the escalation, right? People were being shot by rubber bullets. There was tear gas being deployed. There were several instances of reporters being shot with non-lethal bullets, right? Non-lethal means. But there certainly is an argument to be made that the presence of the National Guard escalated this.
Yeah, and Gavin Newsom weighed in on that. He said, we didn't need this.
Local law enforcement had no needs. They were not requesting any additional resources, but they didn't need that support.
Of course, the Republican opposition to that was from Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman of Indiana.
The president needs to keep Americans safe. They can peacefully protest, but as soon as they start becoming violent, that's when it has to stop.
And I think there's no disagreement with the becoming violent part. I mean, the mayor of L.A., Mayor Bass, and the Governor Newsom have all said, no violence, don't escalate, keep this a peaceful protest, right? Because they know that there's a right to protest in our country as long as we do it peacefully, right? So I don't think there's any disagreement with that. The disagreement comes with what do we need to keep those under control.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about the mayor of Los Angeles because she's weighed in and said, please, President Trump, we don't need this right now. You're escalating an already difficult situation. That she felt that her law enforcement, of course she's going to be supportive of the Los Angeles Police Department, was doing an adequate job of keeping things under control. Trump has indicated, Holly, that he plans to bring in something like 2,000 National Guards people. And right now, I think they've got 300 boots on the ground there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a lot of people. And I mean, we're even watching some of the news media today. It started up already. It seems like this morning.
Yeah, I think again, as things are escalating, we've done 3 nights now, and we're into the 4th day, I think, of protests. And remember, the bottom line, the beginning of these protests were ICE agents arresting people outside of a Home Depot, and as you mentioned, in a restaurant. And some people are saying, look, we don't disagree that you should go after the hardened criminals, but these are people who've been part of our community, and so we've seen protests like that across the country. But for some reason in Los Angeles, right, it has really escalated.
Yeah, and it's escalated to the fact that there were several, I guess they have unmanned taxis in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the driverless cars.
The driverless cars that have been destroyed, burned, rolled over. I mean, this is getting a little bit out of control, maybe a lot out of control. And it's funny because you watch Gavin Newsom, you watch the mayor of I think her last name is Bass, of Los Angeles, saying, you know, we got this under control. Like, give us a break here. And the administration saying, but you don't, and we're calling in the troops because you're not handling things the way you should.
Right. And again, Gavin Newsom is going to an argument that a lot of red states go to, which is we have states' rights. Right. We have the 10th Amendment that says we can make our decisions in our state, and we will call on you if we need your help, but we don't need your help yet.
Right. Yeah. And when we come back after the break, we are going to talk about that, about the sort of the legalities going back and forth. Where it ends, I guess, remains to be seen. Trump's threatened to bring in more troops. Los Angeles Police Department is up against the wall right now. And you also have this when you have situations like this, Holly, and that is who's in charge. You've got the L.A. Chief of Police, and you've got the National Guard, whoever their commandant, their leader is, and going, okay, who's in charge here, and who do I report to, and what do we do? Right. Yep. I mean, if they're an arm of the LA Police Department, that's one thing. And if LAPD says, we'll have you stand here, we'll have you work there, that's another thing. But if they come in and say, hey, we've got this, LA, you stand down, that's going to create a little bit more of a problem that I think no one wants to see. When we come back after the break, we are going to break down not necessarily the legalities of this, Holly, but whether or not and to what extent Trump may have extended his powers, according to the L.A. people, he definitely did, and to what extent the president really had no choice. Stay with us.
It's been so important in this news show to hear how the news is impacting you.
Midday.
How this is really going to impact your life or your children's safety or your husband's job. To hear that wow moment from you.
Midday with Maria Shilaos.
I invite you to join us from noon to 3 right here on KSL News Radio.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come to Logan and celebrate summer right. First, this Thursday through Saturday, it's the 41st Annual Summerfest Arts Fair, and it's free. Discover 168 regional artists showcasing jewelry, fine arts, and crafts, all while you listen to live music and eat great food. 38 live performances and 30 food trucks. Did I mention Summerfest is free? Then check out free hour-long concerts at the Tabernacle downtown at noon every weekday, the free Gardeners Market on Saturdays, and the new downtown plaza with a splash pad and free concerts on Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget your hotel, which is not quite free, is only 10 minutes from the National Forest for hiking and biking and stunning scenery. Celebrate summer in Logan. It's not 3 hours from Salt Lake, it's only 90 minutes, so just get in a car. Dozens of unique restaurants, Cache Valley Foodie Trek, festivals and fun, Broadway performances and concerts, and small town charm. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave.
Oh, what a beautiful day.
This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat.
Let's run another marathon.
And regular deodorant.
How much more?
Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
Summertime is a fun time for everyone, and ARUP Blood Services is here to help the community stay safe and enjoy the season. Did you know the need for blood increases significantly during the summer months when people become more active with hiking, boating, blading, skateboarding, and ARUP is always there to help when someone is in need. That means the hospitals need you even more for blood donations. ARUP Blood Services is here locally in Utah to help. Donating with ARUP Blood Services ensures 100% of your donation stays here in Utah for patients that need it most. Can you spare 20 or 30 minutes? You can be entered to win a $1,500 Disney gift card, good for theme parks, restaurants, resorts, and shopping. One lucky donor will win, plus other great incentives throughout the month. Plan to stop by the Sandy Donor Center on June 14th to see the AirMed helicopter between 10 and 1 p.m. Visit utahblood.org for details, donation times, and more. That's utahblood.org.
With Progressive, renters can save on protection for the things that make your place yours, even things that don't make sense to everyone.
People always wonder why I don't get rid of my guitar since I never play. But it's like, what if I actually end up taking lessons? Sure, I've had it for 8 years, but if I get rid of it, then what will my New Year's resolution be next January?
Exactly. So bundle your renters and auto and save with Progressive and protect the things that make sense to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers not available in all states or situations, covered subject to policy terms and conditions.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6580. That's 800-583-6580.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas, your host, and I'm alongside Holly Richardson, and I've got a bad mic here, it sounds like. Holly, before we start, I think a lot of our listeners may not know you or may not know you very well. What can you tell them that we don't already know?
Well, that's a really good question. I have been around Utah politics for quite a long time. 25 years ago, really started my involvement in tracking Utah politics. And back in the day when blogs were popular, I ran one called Holly on the Hill. So all of my social media still, all these years later, is still Holly on the Hill. Over that time, I spent some time serving in the Utah House of Representatives. And after I left the House, I ended up going back to school, and I now have a PhD in political science.
And I have been a KSL's legal analyst for some time. I've actually filled in on this show a few times over the years, and we did an Inside Sources after Boyd Matheson had it. We took that time slot over a group of us that were working on KSL at night for some time. They moved that to Inside Sources during the afternoon. Now we're doing the morning show. You and I, we poached the name Inside Sources, which I actually really like, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun working together. But let's go back to Los Angeles, because I got to thinking, Holly, over the weekend, what if something like this happened in Utah? And you have to think, and I guess my legal mind is racing back and forth, because we talked about this in the last segment. This hasn't been done since the 1960s, where the federal government federalizes, and I use that word, and I'll explain it in just a minute, the National Guard to go in and do something in a state without the blessing of the governor of that state. Right. Usually they call in the National Guard and say, usually it's for emergencies like a flood or something like that, and they say, hey, we need the help. But in this case, it was called in for a completely different reason, and the governor of Los Angeles and the mayor of the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles are furious and saying, wait a minute, we didn't need this. So you have to wonder, where does the law stand? And in fact, Gavin Newsom has said he's going to sue the administration.
That's right.
And good luck with that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, again, you have to ask yourselves why, why the rush, especially when people felt like they didn't need it. And if you go back to the 60s, the reason the National Guard was mobilized at that point was to protect students as they went to school once the schools had been desegregated, right? So it's just a completely opposite reason. The governor was opposed to desegregation, and so at this point we have protests going on, and the president says he thinks they're out of control, and so he's mobilizing the National Guard to go in, and the governor and the mayor are saying, hey, we've got it, don't send them in, but he sends them in anyway. But to your point earlier, the next election cycle, say we have President Gavin Newsom, right? We're a red state, and he says to the governor, whoever it is, maybe it'll be Governor Deidre Henderson, who knows at this point, right?
Right.
But there's something that happens in Utah, and President Newsom says, I'm going to send in the National Guard, and we're like, wait, we don't need that help.
Right.
Like, we always have to ask those questions. What if the shoe was on the other foot?
Yeah, and there's sort of a competing federal legislation, and I'll try to break it down without getting too deep into the legalese of this, but Title 10 of the United States Code does give a legal framework for the president to activate the National Guard for federal service, essentially putting them under federal command. So we often think of the National Guard as being a state military, but they're federal employees, and usually most of the people I know that are National Guards people are retired military, and they go into the National Guard and serve that way. But they're assigned to each state. There's a Utah National Guard, there's a California National Guard.
Right.
But ultimately, the President of the United States can deploy the National Guard, just as the governor can deploy the National Guard. So Title 10 says, they have the right to do that in cases of national emergency. But then you have this law from the Reconstruction period in 1878. It's called the Posse Comitatus Act. And it literally means don't force your federal agents to be in a posse to go get the bad guys.
Right.
And what it says is this: the federal military will not be used to intervene in state police powers. So on the one hand, the federal government can call in the federal military, in this case the National Guard, when there's a problem or riots or something like that. But then the state can say, but you're intervening in our police powers.
Right. Let me ask you this question. So you said it's Section 10, is that what you said?
Yes.
It gives the president, Title 10, it gives the president authority in case of emergency. Does that emergency have to be declared? Is there a state of emergency? Is there some kind of formal declaration that has to happen before you can mobilize troops?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. If you look at a lot of the executive orders that Trump's used over the last, 120 days, it is based on a national emergency in some sense. And so he's considering, and he has always considered, Holly, the immigration problem in this country to be an emergency. So to him, to the administration, and there's some basis for this. There's some understanding for this because the people voted him in because he said what's happening at our borders is a national emergency. So he's saying, if you're not dealing with this emergency, I'll deal with it for you. And so for him, I think what Trump is saying, and this is going to cause a lawsuit if you believe Gavin Newsom,
right.
This is an emergency. California, you're not dealing with it very well. We're taking over here.
Right.
And Title 10 of the United States Code provides the opportunity for us to do that, and that's exactly what we're doing.
So my understanding is also that the order that President Trump signed to mobilize these National Guard is not specific to California, and it's kind of open-ended. Do you think that actually means that he can deploy National Guard anywhere he wants because he's now issued an order that says I can deploy the National Guard because there's an emergency?
Not only can, but will. And he's threatened that. And he said to certain states, I mean, if you're going to start having these kind of protests that we've seen in Los Angeles against our federal agents, ICE agents, and your people are doing that, and your law enforcement is not stopping that, we're going to take over. And he said that he's actually listed a couple of states that he's thinking this might go. Now, we don't have that problem here in Utah yet. I don't perceive that we will. But who knows what will happen?
Well, I guess to me, part of the question is what is the interpretation of I need to step in, right? So in Utah, we have had people step up in support of people who have been picked up by ICE agents, right? We've seen it in several places in Salt Lake County where neighbors are saying, hey, look, they are peacefully protesting. They are showing up to court hearings, and they're saying, hey, this person has been a great contributor to our neighborhood, whatever it is. Is that going to rise to the level? Because we're a state where people have supported people who are here undocumented. I mean, that's a question, and I think that raises some really serious concerns that if this is a carte blanche, I'm just going to be able to deploy at any time.
Yeah, and it goes to another level, which I think is where you're headed here, Holly, and that is that local law enforcement have said in different respects, we will support federal agents or we will stay out of their way. And we had that conversation for years here in Salt Lake City Police Department saying years ago, we're not immigration officers,
right.
And today saying we support the administration, and sort of in between, mix in between. We'll see how far they go. But when local law enforcement doesn't jump in and doesn't support federal agents, then maybe the administration has a right to say, okay, we're not intervening in state police powers, because your state police aren't doing anything. We're intervening in our federal authority and making sure that our federal agents are protected and that they're doing what they need to do and that they've got the cover of National Guard in protecting them.
How do you see this going in LA right now? Do you think this is like they've hit a tipping point and now things are going to slow down because the governor and the mayor and the National Guard are all saying, everybody cool your jets? Have we hit a tipping point, or do you think they're going to keep going?
I think it's going to take President Trump and Gavin Newsom to sit down and jointly say, we've got this under control, instead of blaming one another, which is not helping anything right now. I think that they've got to come in and say, this is how it's going to work now. And I think it also would help, Holly, if there was some sort of a friendship between and a cooperation between LAPD and the National Guard, where they're saying, we're working together, we've got this down, we have this under control. And until that happens, I see it continuing to escalate. And the problem with the escalation is, like I said when we started the opening segment, we've got all these people that are coming in sort of taking advantage of a bad situation and saying,
right.
Hey, we have an opportunity here to go loot a store, to go roll over a police car, to fight and to do whatever we need to do, even though they're not even sure what the fight is about.
Well, I'm pretty sure they know what the fight is about, but maybe not, right? That I think, again, those are one of those are things we're going to be watching as this unfolds. How long is this going to go on? It's already gone through the entire weekend and is continuing into today, it looks like.
Yeah, and when you looked at what happened on the college campuses with the Palestinian situation, it did expand to more and more and more campuses. Like you said at the beginning, this is going to expand to more and more states. When we come back after the break, let's go and talk about the latest on the big, beautiful breakup of Elon Musk and President Trump. President Trump now threatening serious consequences if Musk funds Democrats. That discussion is next.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story, the police presence is high in Los Angeles, even though the streets are calm this morning.
There are a couple of planned rallies here today, but they're early in the day by design so that when they end, the crowds can leave before the sun goes down. The question will be tonight, a Monday night versus a weekend, if things will just naturally calm down. People have school, they have work, and with no big marches or protests planned late in the day, or if the crowds, and honestly those who come out to create trouble, make their way out again tonight.
ABC's Alex Stone says there are signs that President Trump is prepared to send troops into other cities if protests get out of hand today. Protesters came to the federal building in response to protests happening in Los Angeles. That's the federal building in Salt Lake. They came critical of President Trump's deportation policies. Christian Doe tells KSL TV he doesn't like any deportation.
I have an issue with all ICE arrests. To me, a human being is a human being regardless of whether they have a paper in their pocket.
The Grassroots 5051 posted about the protest on their page. That stands for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. Other national stories KSL is following. The travel ban implemented by the Trump administration is now in effect.
What the Trump administration is saying here is that these are countries with either a history of terrorism, whether they have histories of high rates of visa overstays. These are countries that were investigated by the State Department and found to be worthy of being included in this ban. Of course, there's going to be challenges in court, just like we saw during the first Trump administration.
ABC's Matt Rivers reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 103 right now. We're at 42,660. Coming up, we've got hot weather in store this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Spring cleaning season is wrapping up, but it's not too late to give your carpets the ultimate refresh. Whether it's dirt from foot traffic, pet stains, or just the wear and tear of everyday life, Zero-Res carpet and air duct cleaning can bring your floors back to life. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $129 when you mention KSL. Zero-Res uses a patented cleaning process with no soaps, no harsh chemicals, and no residue, so your carpets dry faster and stay cleaner longer. That means a healthier home for your family, pets, and guests. Don't wait until the craziness of summer is in full swing. Make your home feel fresh, clean, and truly ready for the season ahead. And get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $129 when you mention KSL. Call Zero-Res or schedule online at zerores.com to get your home cleaned the right way. Zerores.com.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. Recently, 300 residents of Chelsea, Michigan, turned up to help a local bookstore move. They formed a human chain from the old location to the new location and passed almost 10,000 books to help this business. What a great community. You will spend much of your life in a work community. It might be a not my problem kind of a place, or it might be let's help each other always kind of a place. I saw a CEO helping on the loading dock, a foreman picking up a hammer, and a senior editor writing copy just to help when it was needed. Those actions don't just help in hard times, they create the kind of work communities we all want to be a part of. Learn more about healthy work communities in an MBA program from Utah State. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Michelle Rowe.
Still looking at a little bit of slowdown. Northbound I-15, the first is going to be right about 152nd south in Draper. Crash that was over to the left has now been moved over to the right. And then again, typical delays going from Midvale into Murray, I should say. Also for drivers over in Summit and Wasatch County, we have delays northbound Highway 40 going between Mayflower and Kearns Boulevard. Again, as you're approaching the eastbound on I-80 approaching Silver Summit. Celebrate freedom in Paris, Idaho. 4th of July chuck wagon breakfast and parade on the 5th 5K run, junior rodeo, craft vendor fair, and free concert. Visit bearlake.org for details. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be a sunny and hot week. Every day it will be in the 90s this week. 92 is our expected high today. Right now it's 76 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I don't know what's more interesting, Holly, the Trump-Gavin Newsom argument or the Trump-Elon Musk argument. Who would have ever thought a month ago that Trump and Musk would be sideways with one another? They were attached at the hip. In fact, people were calling him President Musk.
That's right. And he was, in the White House in the Oval Office all the time, brought his kid with him. Yep, and now they're on the outs for sure.
Well, what do you think started all that? I mean, Musk has jumped in on the big, beautiful bill, and maybe that was the beginning, but it seemed like something was precipitating that beforehand because it seemed like Musk was breaking away from Doge a little bit.
Yeah, and I think there were several things where cracks were starting to show. I think the Doge thing was one of it. There was a lot of promises. In fact, I will be talking about this about Representative Blake Moore, but he said there was a lot of overpromising and under-delivering when it came to Doge. So there was part of that. Musk started to say it's really hard to actually cut spending in D.C. And then, of course, there was the big break on the big, beautiful bill.
Do you think that Musk went into this a little naively? If based on what you just said, that cutting the budget was a little harder than he thought?
Yeah, right. I mean, at some level, you have people who say, well, let's run government like a business, and so you cut the excess. But government is not a business, actually, and it doesn't run the same. And I think he found out that way, maybe the hard way.
Well, let's talk about the level of disappointment that Trump has with Musk.
Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up in campaign for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate because that's billions and billions of dollars, and it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything.
I think one of the things you have to know here,
you were smiling during that.
It escalated, right? I mean, this is the beginning of the breakup over the weekend, and it has just gone downhill from there. So President Trump in this sound clip was saying, look, he saw the bill. Well, Elon fired back on X and said, I never even saw the bill. Most people didn't have a chance to read the bill. It's over 1,000 pages. People didn't even know what was in the bill, right? Anyway, it just has escalated from there. And then in an interview with ABC over the weekend, Donald Trump had some things to say about Musk. He wanted to say, he said, he was asked point blank, are you going to repair the relationship? He said, no, I don't have any interest.
Right. Well, and who stands to lose or gain more from this? I mean, Elon Musk was working with Trump. You would assume that he had something to do with this bill, or at least had some knowledge about it. But he's come out very strongly against it. I think he called it an abomination, or who knows what he said. I mean, he was very strongly against it. And you would think, wait a minute, Elon, you might want to run that by Trump first before you start making a public statement about it.
I think the relationship is broken. And, we talked about this on the weekend, actually, just leading up into our new show today. But Musk has said publicly as part of this whole process, you can have a big bill or you can have a beautiful bill, but you cannot have both together, right? He wanted to really see some streamlining of the spending in the federal government. This big, beautiful bill doesn't really do that. there are some cuts, of course, and we've talked about that. But I think one of the things that's interesting in this public breakup, right, is that Elon Musk had put out some really maybe probably inflammatory, but definitely explosive comments saying things like, Trump is on the Epstein list. That's why it hasn't been released. He actually has deleted that tweet, but the internet lives forever, so it's still out there. His dad actually weighed in and said, well, I think my son needs to mend the relationship, but we already have a president saying he has no interest in talking to Musk anymore. It's over.
And Musk's company, at least the Tesla part of it, his companies really took a pounding in the first few months. And so I could see that maybe Elon felt like he needed to get back to work and to try to get that business going again. But let's talk about SpaceX, because they have huge contracts with the government right now.
Right.
One of Musk's leading consultants and friends was about to head NASA.
Right.
That name has been pulled in part because Trump read over and over and over names of Democrats that he had donated to and said, can we really trust this man?
Right.
So that's been pulled out from under Elon Musk. He's cutting back on the incentives for electric vehicles, which would have been huge for the electric vehicle industry. And he said, well, we'll get more, what does he call it? Gas combustion engines.
Right.
Good for you, Trump.
So here's another part of what Donald Trump is doing to, escalate the breakup, I guess. But he wrote on his social media platform, which is Truth Social, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, and of course he uses lots of capital letters, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. And then he says, I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Right. So anyway, you do have this back and forth. And then Musk said he would cancel, the Dragon space module thing that transports astronauts, which would mean that the only way to get American astronauts to the International Space Station would be to use Russian transport, which has its own large set of problems. But later, Elon backed down off of that a little bit. But yeah, this is very big. And I think as we head into the next section of this, we're going to talk about how this impacts the big, beautiful bill. But that really seemed to be the flashpoint of the breakup here is Trump, who wants this big, beautiful bill passed, and Elon Musk, who said there's nothing beautiful about this bill. We talked in the last segment, and you mentioned this, Holly, that the escalation of tension in the LA riots thing may continue to escalate. This one seems that it should start to dissipate a little bit. It seems like these are two men, the richest man on the planet and perhaps the most powerful, getting together in some respect. There's some mutual benefit to these two people working together in the future. And Trump saying, you better not donate to any Democratic candidates or you're in trouble. And that actually brings up another point. Isn't that his First Amendment right to use his money where he sees fit? I'm not saying Musk will donate to Democrats, and I'm not saying Democrats want his money. He's made some really painful cuts, right? But I think as a free citizen, not part of the administration, it seems problematic to have a president say, I will punish you if you donate to people I don't like.
Yeah, but he can, and he will, and he's done that before, and he said that he will again. I mean, but in some respects, I think Trump has a lot to do with contracting, with what NASA does, with who they contract with, and he can have some say in that. He probably shouldn't. I mean, he's got enough other things on his plate right now than to say, don't do business with SpaceX.
Right.
And, the electric vehicle help, the sort of the concessions that are in the big, beautiful bill that are cutting back on maybe what incentives people have to buy electric vehicles. That had to be a little bit of a shot to Elon Musk. But Musk had to know at the outset Trump wasn't a huge fan of green energy. I mean, that was he set aside Biden's green energy plan first week in office.
Except that he sold Teslas on the White House lawn, right, and bought his first Tesla from Elon early in the administration. But, look, part of the question is how do you punish somebody? And Trump said he had no comment on that at this point.
Yeah. So let's talk about what Doge looks like without Elon Musk and Representative Blake Moore speaking out on the future of Doge.
When we come back.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
It's always so much fun for me to talk about NPS, where you always, each and every day at each of their stores, you save 20 to 70% off retail. And then in each one of the locations, you'll find values above and beyond that. Dee and I were there the other day. We love to do this with our grandkids. We pick them up from school and we go to NPS, and there are so many fun things that are so affordable that they just love to have, and treats and goodies and toys. But you'll notice the 50% off tags that are here and there, even higher, 70% off, and that's on top of the savings that you're already enjoying at NPS. And somebody was wearing a shirt there the other day that said, "I love to treasure hunt at NPS." Well, I do too. They have 4 locations: the Salt Lake store, the Anchor store at 1600 South Empire, the industrial location right across the street, Layton and Orem, and don't forget to shop for things for the garden at NPS.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff, many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We talked in the last segment about the big, beautiful bill and Elon Musk's disappointment with it, but Representative Blake Moore of Utah is actually defending the bill, Holly, arguing that estimates about how much it's going to increase the already ballooning national debt are not quite accurate.
Right. He's saying the Congressional Budget Office has underestimated the economic growth that will come as the result of the tax cuts in this bill.
Yeah. So I mean, because if you look at the bill, there's something like people are saying something between $2.5 and maybe $20 trillion over the course of the next 10 years,
right?
and increasing the national debt. More saying that what are you saying, that the tax savings that from people who are getting tax cuts will
actually stimulate economic growth, right? And that's part of the argument for cutting taxes, right? So you have more money in your pocket, then you go and spend more money in the economy. So the Congressional Budget Office is really a nonpartisan office, although people have labeled them partisan. They're actually not. They're nonpartisan, and led by a Republican right now. But they estimated that the bill would add $2.4 trillion to the national deficit. And Mike Lee, our senior senator, has said that figure is absolutely unacceptable, can't even go there. That's the part where Elon Musk was calling it pork-filled and a disgusting abomination, right?
Right.
But Blake Moore is saying, look, the CBO they just don't think their numbers are accurate. So again, as you're projecting, you can't know for sure what's going to happen. But Moore is saying that there's $2.5 trillion worth of economic growth that you will get because of the tax cuts in this bill. So he's saying Republicans are thinking that they're going to get a 2.6% GDP growth rate, which is gross domestic product, while the CBO says it's a 1.8% rate. So that's where you get some of the differences in numbers.
And, of course, it passed Congress by a very slim margin.
The House.
The House by a very slim margin. It's now at the Senate, and it's in trouble. In part, our own Senator Mike Lee is a little bit concerned about what it's doing with the spending.
Yeah, and Senator John Curtis is concerned too, and for some of the same spending reasons and for some other reasons as well. Right? I think one of the things that's interesting, we talked the first half of this first hour about the protests in LA and how much of that kind of moves attention away from the discussion on Capitol Hill that's going on in the Senate. Because yes, this bill, at least going into the weekend, was in trouble on the Senate side. So Mike Johnson on the House side, who's Speaker of the U.S. House, said, look, we're just going to put our heads down. This bill's going to pass. It's not going to be a problem. But the senators on the Senate side, I don't think that's the case.
So the Senate... The Senate is going to make some changes. Let's assume that they do make some changes,
right?
And it goes back to the House. Several House members have said, and I don't know whether to take them too seriously, had I read the bill more closely, I wouldn't have supported it. Several Republican representatives have said, hey, if I had read it, I wouldn't have passed it.
Yeah.
Maybe these changes by the Senate will change their mind, or maybe they'll say,
or maybe there are pieces that they'll pull out. So, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who leads the Doge caucus in the House, actually, she's one of the ones who had a problem with the bill after it passed, and that part was regulating artificial intelligence from a federal level rather than a state level. And so she's saying, I don't agree with that piece of the bill. But one of the things that's interesting, I think, about Representative Moore is he told the Deseret News, he goes, everybody knew Elon was exaggerating, right? And then he commented, and I mentioned this in a previous segment, he commented and said they kind of had a path or a history of over-promising and under-delivering. And I think that might be an understatement on the Doge cuts that actually happened.
Yeah, and we should mention we may have Representative Moore here tomorrow to talk about
that's our plan.
This. Yeah,
that's our plan.
Let's see if we can do that. So where does it sit right now? It's at the Senate. I mean, and I'm assuming that something's going to happen on it this week, or do we know?
So the big beautiful bill, which is of course President Trump's name for it, the budget bill, is on the Senate side. They will basically have all the month of June to debate the bill. We'll see how much progress they make. President Trump has said he wants to see it signed by both parties and ready for his desk by July 4th, Independence Day. That seems to be a really rapid timeline, especially when there's so many concerns on the Senate side. So another thing you pointed out is that there are other House Republicans who are saying there are other problems with the bill. So one of them is the SALT, which is the state allocated taxes, basically, for tax relief on your tax form. And they increased the exemption for that. So that impacts states where they have a higher income tax rate and they want to be able to deduct what they paid for their state taxes on their federal taxes. So they're saying, even though they're Republicans in a state that tends to lean blue or is a purple state, and they're saying if you take those out, then we can't support the bill, right? We negotiated that to be in the bill. If you take those out, we can't support it. And remember, it passed by 1 vote in the House.
Right. And our 2 senators from Utah both have some concerns, but slightly different concerns. I think Mike Lee's is about the spending, and I think that John Curtis is more concerned with some of the cuts to clean energy and
I mean, he had a recent op-ed this weekend where he talked about we've got to be smart about our cuts, right? Make cuts. Yes, we need to do that, but be smart about them, because if you're making cuts with a machete and not a scalpel, you end up sometimes, and this is, I think, shown out over time, you end up increasing the cost in the long run. So maybe you lose jobs, maybe you lose, benefits. We know people in Utah will lose jobs if they cut all of these solar subsidies, for example, and things have to shut down. We're going to end up losing jobs.
Do you think that, and I say this in all sincerity, that Republican senators care about Elon Musk's input into this? I mean, do you think they're listening to that and going, hey, wait a minute? And do you think that the American public does, that they're looking going, wow, if Elon Musk doesn't like it, maybe...
So, yes, I do. And here's what's interesting. So there was some polling, and it's probably been about a month when Elon and Trump were still friends.
Right.
But there was something like 72% of Americans in this poll who said they supported Musk's approach, and they supported this effort to slash the federal government, right? So one of the things I think to remember is senators also, they do appreciate input, but they also can read political winds, right? So now they're in a position where they have to say, am I going to support President Trump and his goals with the big, beautiful bill, or I'm going to stay on the side of Musk, right? And Mike Lee kind of showed this over the weekend where he posted and said, but I like them both. And he does, and now he has to choose.
Yeah, right. How important is this bill to Trump? And again, in its original form, obviously there's going to be changes, but this is seemingly a pretty big thing for the administration.
Yeah, and
to
I
get
think
this bill passed.
He campaigned on this, right? And he said we're going to lump everything I want into one big beautiful bill. That's why it's called that, right? That's where you get the AI stuff, the artificial intelligence stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with the budget. He's wanted people to lump everything into one big bill so they could just pass it lump sum and just say, look, we've made all these changes and we've just done it in one bill. So I would say it's very important for him. We already know he's made angry phone calls to people who are dragging their feet on this. There was back and forth in the House, and he had to make some personal phone calls. He's threatened to, primary people if they don't support this bill. I mean, we'll see how it goes. But the Senate is supposed to be a more deliberative body. And there are some real concerns, and there are people within the Senate who are like, I'm just like Rand Paul. I cannot support this bill.
There's one thing about the bill you mentioned a minute ago, and we've only got about a minute or two left, that I don't understand, and that is the AI component and why that's even important to this. But what I think I'm hearing is that states are limited in what they can do to regulate artificial intelligence, and at least for the next 10 years, it's going to be under the federal government's auspices.
Only if this bill passed with that portion unchanged, right? So far, it is in the bill, and it passed the House, as you mentioned. But that's exactly right. It gives the federal government the authority to regulate artificial intelligence over the top of the states, and it would trump the states' ability to regulate this. We've been talking about states' rights already this morning, but that's another area where I think people within the state are really concerned. It's one of the things that changes super, super rapidly, artificial intelligence. So it's an area of concern within the bill for sure.
And it does seem to me that there's some logic to that until we get this AI thing figured out, that maybe we have an overarching entity that's deciding what to do with it. And maybe I think that some of our legislators here in Utah are going to say, well, wait a minute,
right.
We've already got this under
Utah's
control
been working
here
on
in
it.
Utah. We're way ahead of you. Don't tell us what to do with AI. But that remains to be seen. Let's take a look at that, and we'll follow up with that later. We're also going to follow up after the hour with Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, who's going to join us in studio as we kick off our first show of Inside Sources. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour, we have a tragic update on the 14-year-old girl hit by a car in Lehigh last weekend. Her family has confirmed with KSL she died from her injuries over the weekend. The girl, identified as Jenna Sharp, had severe head trauma from the accident and had not shown any sign of consciousness in the past week. Our top national story now from ABC News. We have an egg recall this morning after a salmonella outbreak sickened dozens of people across multiple states. The California-based August Egg Company is recalling 1.7 million brown organic and brown cage-free eggs distributed across 9 different states.
Prices have come down a lot. The cost right now of a dozen eggs is about $2.63, and the good news here is 1.7 million, almost 2 million eggs is relatively small compared to the total eggs we produce. Shouldn't drive prices much higher unless it gets to be a bigger recall.
ABC News chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis reporting none of the recalled eggs were sold in Utah. The president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints dedicated the Syracuse, Utah temple yesterday. President Russell M. Nelson told those in attendance, Syracuse is known to produce, quote, valiant youth, strong families, and saints who are willing to let God prevail in their lives. The temple was announced back in 2020 with the groundbreaking in 2021. Other new temples under construction in Utah are in Ephraim, Heber Valley, Linden, and Smithfield. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now down 39 points. That's less than 1/10%. We're at 42,724. Coming up, we've got a week in the 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
When was the last time your vacation was living the art of adventure? Discover it in Cedar City, Utah. Towering red rocks, epic trails, summer events, and world-class drama at the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival, starting June 17th with Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra, and more. Marvel at nature's masterpieces with just a short drive to Zion, Bryce Canyon, Cedar Breaks, and Kolob Canyons. Discover Utah's earliest artists at the Parowan Gap Petroglyph site. Head up to Bryan Head for chairlift rides that deliver endless high-elevation views. Wildflower Meadows, topped off with ATV and downhill biking trails. Be starstruck by the skies at Cedar Breaks National Monument. Browse Cedar City's unique shops and indulge in savory bites. Come experience the art of adventure around every turn in Cedar City. Start planning your vacation right now at visitcedarcity.com.
Behold, 'tis I, Queen Trustworth, sentinel for seniors amongst the Knights of Scamelot, here to give thee warning. Scams and fraud are on the rise in Utah, and seniors are especially under siege. Be wary of unsolicited texts, phone calls, and salespeople asking for personal or financial information, and never send money to someone thou hast only met online. If thou hast doubts, talk to someone thou trusteth and get educated at scams.utah.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking at a new slowdown southbound I-15. This is going between Kaysville and Farmington, right about Shepherd Lane. Don't really have a cause for that at the moment. Also still continuing to see delays northbound Highway 40 going between Mayflower and Kearns Boulevard. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We have a warm week on hand with highs in the low to mid 90s all week long, even warmer this weekend, 97 on Father's Day. Right now it's 76 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm not used to that introduction yet.
I know.
I mean, especially with the music and the noise. I played it for my wife this weekend. She said, that's great. I really like that.
It's kind of relaxing, even though our topics are not very relaxing. Right?
Well, this one is today. We're lucky to have with us in studio Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, guys. It's great to be here.
Our first show, our first day, and here you are
what
in
an
person.
Honor.
It's an honor for us, it really
it's
is.
It's exciting for me. Congratulations. This is a big deal. I'm really excited for you, too.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited to have you, and we get to talk about a really light topic right now, actually, domestic violence. So I think our listeners already know that you were really intimately involved with being affected by domestic violence when your cousin was the victim of an attack and killed. And Utah then came together, passed a lethality assessment protocol, or a LAP, which I think it was the 2024 legislative session. Was that right?
2023.
2023.
Yep.
Okay. So it's already been 2 years. And I wondered if you could just give us an update on where we're sitting. What are we looking at in the state and how those are impacting Utah families?
Yeah. After my cousin Mandy was gunned down, brutally murdered by her ex-husband in August of 2022, in the next legislative session in 2023, we did pass this lethality assessment protocol legislation that required all law enforcement entities to conduct a lethality assessment when they go to a scene of intimate partner violence, no matter where it is, and then kind of compile this database so they have information. Since that went into effect, which was July 1st, 2023, we have had just over 21,000 lethality assessments conducted, wow. and it's not been quite 2 years yet. So 21,000, and that's number since the end of May. So it's been probably a little bit more since then, and it's been really interesting to see kind of some of the trends. About almost 2/3 of those lethality assessments come back scored at a potentially lethal. So people are at high risk. And now we're starting to see some repeat offenders. 19% of these lethality assessments are recurring people who've had lethality assessments before. And 27% of them are actually on people who had restraining orders or protective orders.
I'll be honest with you. When I've practiced in this field for a long time, and I think you know that, Lieutenant Governor. I was a prosecuting attorney, and I prosecuted domestic violence cases, and as a defense attorney, I've defended them. And I talked to you about this. We talked to you a year or two ago when this was coming into place, and I thought, law enforcement's not going to utilize this, and they're not going to like it, but they do, and I see them use it all the time. Yeah. And I see these assessments done in case after case after case, and I think that there's going to be a we're going to look back on this in the future, and we're going to gather a ton of information that's incredibly valuable to us. And I think it's valuable to the courts because that's where I practice mostly, and it's important to law enforcement. And it gives sort of an objective view of domestic violence that sometimes law enforcement can look at a case and say, well, this isn't a good case or it is a good case. But putting the assessment in place like you have really gives a fair and objective analysis of what's going on in a domestic violence situation.
Yeah, I mean, when a law enforcement goes to a scene and there's just one incident, they might not think that one incident is all that big of a deal.
Right.
But if they have that better context and a bigger picture, and they can assess the lethality of the situation and see maybe what's happened in the past, they'll use their discretion in some different ways. And I think that's really valuable information for law enforcement. This is these are deaths that happen, these intimate partner violence deaths, homicides, are preventable. And we need to be doing everything that we can to prevent them. There's a lot more that we need to be doing. The water's not all the way down to the end of the row yet at all. But this has been a really good starting point.
Is there anything with this almost 2 years of data that has surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sheer volume of these lethality assessments that come back as potentially lethal, that surprised me. I didn't realize it would be so many that came back. Also, it's been surprising to see that we really had a lot of need out there. So another part of that legislation was connecting people, victims, to victim services on the scene. And that has put a lot of strain on our community partners who are these nonprofit organizations who do this victim service work. We were able to get them some funding. They need a lot more. What we did was good, but not nearly enough. And they're really feeling that strain because there were so many people who needed these services who were not getting them and now are being connected. And it's really good that they're being connected, but we also need to not let our foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something that surprised me a little bit about it, and that is that historically, and you recognize this, I'm sure, in domestic violence situations, law enforcement is frustrated knowing that in most instances, the victim is either not going to show up in court or not be cooperative or maybe change his or her story. But with the lethality assessment, which is taken usually concurrent with the incident, with law enforcement responding, they have that information. They have that important information right at the outset. And it helps, I think, the courts, and it helps prosecutors and law enforcement in saying, you know, she might back out of the case at the end of the day, but let's look at what happened here. And maybe there's some other tools that we can utilize besides just going to court, having these assessments. I mean, I look at it again, like I said, I was skeptical, but man, it's given law enforcement and their victim advocates a lot of tools.
Absolutely, and it's been good for the victims.
Yes,
because a lot of people who are in these situations maybe don't realize or understand the gravity of the situation. They don't understand this is their normal. And when they start to see that this is not normal, this is not healthy or good, then, you know, I think that it's enlightening for them. It may not help them the very first time, but it definitely has been good, I think, for the victims and maybe even the perpetrators.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I saw as I read through the questions on the lethality assessment protocol and just saw some stories coming back about victims who said, I didn't know that I should be concerned about this. Yeah. I didn't know that if he put his hands around my neck and squeezed that actually elevated my risk really high, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of that. So I think for me, that's one of the things that was surprising is that how many people didn't realize that they were in that situation. And, you know, we've talked about the cycle of abuse, and there can be the honeymoon period, and, you know, and I didn't really mean it, and the gaslighting where you're trying to tell somebody that what they experienced wasn't really what they experienced. But by the time it escalates to involve police, then you have this tool now. Where do you anticipate maybe you don't have an answer for this, but maybe during the next legislative session, as we've seen these numbers come out and we see this increased need for victim services, where do you see this going, legislation?
Well, first, a couple of things. First of all, the lethality assessment is there to assess the lethality of the victim. It is not there to assess necessarily the risk of the perpetrator. And so there are some other questions and tools that need to be added in order to try to accurately assess the risk of this person. What risk do they have of escalating and being violent? Another thing is coercive control. We don't have a good definition of that in statute. And I think we're starting to see that is a really important piece of.
Well, I was going to ask you, what does that mean?
It's what it sounds like. It's control, and in a way that is really quite abusive, and can have a devastating effect on the victims. But it's really hard for courts or others to really be able to do anything about it because we just don't have good definition in our statutes. So I would really love to see lawmakers work on that aspect of it. I've been in contact with some judges who are concerned about it, and right now they don't think that the laws are quite adequate there.
You know, one thing that I've noticed about it also is this, that Utah, of course, we have these very rural areas. We have these very urban areas. You have Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, some of the bigger cities that have officers specialized in domestic violence. You have prosecutors specialized in domestic violence. But this lethality assessment seems to, and we've only got about 30 seconds, give even the outlying areas some level of expertise because they have this information, they have this tool that they can use to help them in understanding how to resolve a case.
Yeah, I think that law enforcement largely really like the lethality assessment and find it valuable.
Do you mind sticking around?
Yeah, sure.
We've got you now, so we're going to keep you for another segment, and we're going to talk about the Volunteer for Good initiative and its impact on students in Utah.
Jeff Kaplan.
His Minute of News is great. It's always entertaining.
I listen to Jeff Kaplan every day.
He gives you important news and traffic and the familiar voice that helps you enjoy the ride home.
I really like Jeff's Minute of News. He's calm and he's balanced.
I really enjoy driving home and just listening to what he's got to say.
Jeff Kaplan gets me home every day.
Join the community that relies on Jeff Kaplan. He has you covered. Afternoons from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come to Logan and celebrate summer right. First, this Thursday through Saturday, it's the 41st annual Summerfest Arts Fair, and it's free. Discover 168 regional artists showcasing jewelry, fine arts, and crafts, all while you listen to live music and eat great food. 38 live performances and 30 food trucks. Did I mention Summerfest is free? Then check out free hour-long concerts at the Tabernacle downtown at noon every weekday, the free Gardeners Market on Saturdays, and the new downtown plaza with a splash pad and free concerts on Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget your hotel, which is not quite free, is only 10 minutes from the National Forest for hiking and biking and stunning scenery. Celebrate summer in Logan. It's not 3 hours from Salt Lake, it's only 90 minutes, so just get in a car. Dozens of unique restaurants, Cache Valley Foodie Trek, festivals and fun, Broadway performances and concerts, and small town charm. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Spring has sprung, and you probably got a lot to get done before Memorial Day. Tim Hughes here again with my friends Greg and Mike from Replenish Landscape Garden Products. Of course, you hear us talk about Replenish Compost being so much different than anything else that's out there on the market. Greg, why is that?
Well, it's a great balanced material that's been around for 31 years. It's dark, it's rich, it feeds the plants, it works as a great mulch to suppress weeds and retain water.
The other thing is, it just looks great when you put it down. A lot of people use it just as a top dressing. You can, of course, come by here in Murray and pick it up yourself, or you can have it delivered, right, Mike?
Yeah, we can deliver it in a super big bag or in bulk or in the small bags.
They've been beautifying Utah 1 yard at a time, and yours is next. Give them a call today at 801-262-5142. You'll find them at 4660 South 200 West in Murray or online at replenishcompost.com. Replenish. It's good stuff.
Nothing says summer like double rewards on your Mountain America Rewards credit card. Get 2 times the points on everything from gas and groceries to travel and home projects. Now through July 31st, 2025. Oh, wow. It's the perfect way to stretch your dollar and make summer doubly rewarding. Apply for your Mountain America Rewards credit card at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, A teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
We are back on our very first Inside Sources with Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson. I am the Holly of the Holly Richardson part. And we are so excited to be joined today in studio by Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. Thank you so much for being here in person.
It's so great to be here with both of you.
It really is nice to have you.
Yeah, so we spent the last time talking about domestic violence, the last segment, and it's a pretty heavy topic. Now I am really excited to talk about the Volunteer for Good initiative that's going on in the state right now. I am a huge proponent of the value of service, and I'd love to hear you tell us about it.
Well, thanks. This is a program that we started about a year ago. Of course, service has been an important part of the Cox-Henderson administration as well, very, very important to us. And as we looked at ways to expand service opportunities and also looked at this growing crisis, mental health crisis, loneliness crisis that our youth have, and as we're trying to get cell phones out of hands, cell phones out of schools, we really do need to find something to fill that void with. This service initiative kind of sprang into being around all of that. So what it is a pilot program. We have 5 LEAs, or 4 school districts and 1 statewide charter school who have volunteered to be part of this 3-year pilot program. And the goal is for every high school student, well, eventually throughout the state, but right now in these 5 school districts, every high school student to participate in some way in volunteering. You've got a lot of volunteering that happens at high school level, but it's usually the student government and the same type of people. We want everyone to get involved in some way, and it can't be a top-down approach. So we've given a lot of latitude for schools to figure out what this looks like for them, and we're seeing some really, really cool outcomes.
So that's what I was going to ask you, the nuts and bolts of it. The schools have some ability to sort of work it and figure out some things that they want to do with respect to their school, because I guess it would be different in Salt Lake than it might be in Kane County or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. And we've got rural school districts, we've got big school districts, we've got, like I said, the online charter school. So lots of different needs out there, lots of different opportunities out there. And what the schools are doing, we've got $3 million that was appropriated in 2024 that You Serve Utah. They're a division of the Cultural and Community Engagement, the Department of Cultural and Community Engagement. They're really kind of overseeing that funding, that grant funding, and giving some money to these school districts to help them fulfill this purpose. And sometimes that means the school districts will hire what one of them calls a chief worrier, the person who's in charge of figuring this out for their school district or for individual schools. It's funding to help pay for buses or supplies. In Richfield, one of the high schools in Sevier County Sevier School District, they painted the N, I believe it's an N on their mountain for North Sevier High School, and they couldn't have afforded to do that otherwise. So that was their service project, to repaint this, and actually saved the school district a bunch of money because they had the volunteers go and do it, and they used the grant money to pay for the paint. So things like that. But these students are, I've been visiting with them and going on tours to see what's happening in these school districts, and they're just doing some incredible things. And the students are learning a lot about others, about themselves, about their communities, and they're learning to love people better. It's wonderful.
So as we look at this, you just completed the first year of the 3-year pilot. What are you hoping to see after the end of this pilot? What kind of feedback and what kind of path forward are you hoping?
Well, this pilot, the purpose of it is to really iterate along the way, to find out what the barriers are for these school districts to learn from each other. Also, there's a tracking system that the state has implemented for the students to get on and track, and there's been some kinks to work out with that. And so really these school districts are the guinea pigs, so to speak, to try to figure out what the problems are, what some things work well, to share best practices, to help problem solve, and really set the stage for this to be able to expand throughout the state of Utah.
You know, we hear more and more about kids in that age group who are depressed and who are lonely and who don't have colleagues and don't have friends and don't have sources outside the home to be involved with, this seems like such a wonderful vehicle for that, to get kids out, to get them in a group with other kids and working together on something like that. I mean, it's one of the biggest problems we're having in America right now with American youth is that level of depression. This, to me, it just seems on its face that a great way to get kids out and working with other kids and doing things that they wouldn't otherwise do.
And meeting with people that they wouldn't otherwise
Right.
meet with. And, I've heard from a lot of high school students who have said that they've made friends now with people in their own high schools that they never would have even
Exactly.
associated with
Yeah.
before. And I
Yeah.
think that is a really beautiful thing that can come out of this.
So I'm looking on the website, and it's userve.utah.gov/volunteer for good. But it says the latest update was March, and so we know we finished the school year, so I'm sure that there's more. But 5,908 students participating in 17 schools completed over 2,500, in fact, almost 2,600 service opportunities and over 14,000 hours of service. I mean, I feel like that's really incredible for students in a variety of places, from Granite School District down to Sevier and Garfield
and
Nebo.
Nebo.
Yeah.
And some of these school districts really didn't start till mid-year.
Oh, wow.
So really, it's just kind of getting its wings. It's just kind of getting off the ground now.
Yeah.
And I think that the 2025-26 school year will be a much better example of what this program can be.
Do you think that this program could provide credit for graduation? Do you think that that's an opportunity, right, for students that could be elective credit? Is this something that would be mandatory, maybe?
Those are things that are being talked about. We started out this idea with saying this would need to be a credit or requirement to graduate, and that was quickly scrapped for a number of reasons. But it is a requirement. I mean, it is these participating schools. They have to have, all of the students have to participate. But what they're trying to do is get teachers to just kind of build this culture of service within their classrooms, within their regular lessons that they will teach. And so it's just kind of getting that mindset to change and to those habits to be developed. But we're seeing some really great progress, and the people who've been participating, while there have been some kinks and some hiccups that they're trying to iron out, really have been excited about it and seen some really good benefits from this.
While we have you here, we need to shift gears for a minute because we should have had you for 3 or 4 segments today. But talk to us about municipal elections this year. And you mentioned a new law or some things that maybe some of our voters aren't familiar with.
Oh, yeah. In Utah, every year is election year.
Yeah.
So it's election year. It's municipal election year. Actually, about half the state of Utah will not see elections this year. And the reasons, if you don't get a ballot in the mail, and the municipal primaries are in August this year. So if you don't get a ballot in the mail, a couple of reasons would be maybe you live in an unincorporated area of the state, or maybe you don't have your city council members or whoever that's up don't get challenged. So they can effectively cancel their elections if they don't have opponents running. So, but for many Utahns, they will receive a ballot. Those ballots will be mailed out in July, the end of July, 22nd of July, and primary election day is on August 12th. Now, the important thing for people to remember who are getting a ballot and are voting this year is there were some significant laws changed in the last legislative session in March. The one new election law that will pertain to this year's election it's the in-hand provision. So your ballots, typically for years, Utah's had a postmark law. So your ballot has to be postmarked the day before the election in order for it to be counted. Now those ballots have to actually be in the clerk's or the city recorder's hands by 8 p.m. by close of polls on election day. And if they're not, your ballot won't count. So that is a really significant change that people need to be aware of. There's lots of different ways to cast your ballot other than putting it in the mailbox. You do get your ballot several weeks in advance, so you can mail it early, or you can drop it in your drop box. Your city will have a drop box, or you can go vote in person. But just people need to be aware that law has changed. It's no longer a postmark deadline. It is now an in-hand deadline.
That's really good information to know. And I know for me, if I don't vote right at the beginning, I'm one of those last day persons. And so I'm usually headed down to the drop box because I didn't want to miss the postmark issue, right? So yeah, those are that's really important for people who are waiting to the last minute. If they're going to mail it, they can't really count on it being there and being counted. So if you're a last minute voter, make sure you take it in person.
And of course, you can get on vote.utah.gov and check your ballot status and sign up to get those text messages sent to you so you know when your ballot's been sent and counted.
I know we're out of time, but I need to ask you a quick question. Ranked choice voting, is that still happening in some municipalities?
Yes, this is the last year of the pilot program. There are 4 cities, and they're all in Salt Lake County, that are doing ranked choice voting this year.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning on our opening day, and we hope to have you back soon. Next, after the break, opinion editor of the Deseret News, Jay Evenson, traveled to Bangladesh where he explored the price of freedom. He's going to join us in studio next with what he learned.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top local story, Utah Congressman Blake Moore says he wants to continue what DOJ was trying to do in Washington before Elon Musk left. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
Representative Moore says he still thinks there's an opportunity to better allocate federal tax dollars. Moore is the co-chair of the Congressional DOJ Caucus. He told the Deseret News they had very limited interaction with the DOJ team and Musk when he was in Washington, and that he felt like some of what Musk and President Trump told Americans about proposed cuts amounted to a lot of, quote, over-promising but under-delivering.
Moore says other lawmakers have also expressed interest in continuing DOJ's work to find bills to cut. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom are in a war of words after the president ordered the National Guard to help police stop immigration protests that turned violent.
Trump has made clear he's also willing to escalate this response even further, raising the possibility of sending in active duty Marines, which Governor Newsom has said would be, quote, deranged. The administration is also suggesting they may arrest public officials who interfere with immigration enforcement activities, and there are signs that President Trump is prepared to send troops into other cities to quell protests if he feels it is necessary.
ABC's Mary Bruce reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off just 3 points. We're at 42,759. Coming up, a week of above normal temperatures. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Michelle Rowe.
Looking good, I-15 northbound through the heart of the valley. Do see some slowdowns, though. Southbound I-15. This is going between Kaysville and Farmington, right around Shepherd Lane. Not seeing cause for those delays. And then new delays have just popped up. Northbound I-15 as you're just going past the Farmington split. Northbound Highway 40 remains busy there as well between Mayflower and Kearns Boulevard. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
A week of sun and well above normal temperatures. Will be up to 92 today, 97 by Father's Day. And right now it's 79 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, this weekend I was reading an article by Jay Evenson regarding Ukraine and warfare and the use of drones, and I thought, we need to get him here. And you said, we need to get him here, but I've got something even more interesting that we can get him here to talk about. And here he is in studio with us today on Monday morning. Jay, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Bangladesh. So I've been there. I've gone on humanitarian missions several times down in the southern part of the country working with Rohingya refugees. But you had the opportunity to, I think, interview one of the most interesting and arguably one of the most important people right now in the international sphere. And I'd like for you to tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, when you think about the great stories going on, the big stories going on in the world, we think about war in Ukraine, we think about war in Gaza, we think about those types of things. But I think there is no story in the world more interesting right now than what's happening in Bangladesh. Here you've got a Nobel laureate, Muhammad Yunus, who has spent his career trying to help the poorest of the poor people. And he developed microcredit loans, which you may have heard about, where you loan small, very small amounts to the poorest people, say $20. And that's enough. You put them in support groups that helps teach them how to start their own business with $20, maybe buying a goat, maybe buying some bamboo to make a piece of furniture. They pay back that money, and then maybe they get a $40 loan next time. And it keeps growing until they're out of poverty.
Yeah.
Well, for 15 years, Bangladesh has been ruled by Sheikh Hasina, who was a ruthless autocrat. And she had it in for Muhammad Yunus. Even though he'd won the Nobel Peace Prize, she filed over 200 charges against him, alleging all types of fraud in his businesses. She went on television and publicly threatened to dunk him in the Padma River, which is the biggest river in Bangladesh. And she was threatening to put him into prison. And overnight, the students at universities in Dhaka, Bangladesh, rose up and started protesting against her. She made the mistake of sending the army out to attack these protesters. And the United Nations estimates about 1,400 of these college students were murdered in that attack.
When was this?
This was in July and early August of last year.
Wow.
So what happened? The kids didn't run away. They just came in larger and larger numbers until they overwhelmed the military, and until Sheikh Hasina had to run for her life, and all members of the parliament, they all just disappeared. And then the student revolutionary leaders turned to Muhammad Yunus, who was now 84 years old, and said to him, we want you to lead our government. We want you to be, in Bangladesh, when you're in between governments, it's called chief advisor to the government. It's a temporary position. He didn't want to do it. He's not a political person, but they talked him into it to come and do it. So here's this man who spent his whole life trying to help the poor and trying to get government to allow him to do what he wants to do. Now he's in charge of the government, and now his main focus is to try to allow for fair and honest elections. He's now said he wants to do this in April, and he's facing all kinds of pressures from the military, thinks he's taking too long to do this. The number one party in Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, wants to have elections immediately. And the public seems to be on Muhammad Yunus's side. I wanted to go over there and see what's really happening and find out, because I've known Muhammad Yunus now for about 25 years, actually 30.
Yeah, talk to us about
years.
that. How do you know this man, and what's the source of that relationship?
We have a mutual friend, Dr. Scott Leckman in Salt Lake, who's a general surgeon. And he was working closely with this international aid group called Results International, and they had been working with Muhammad Yunus. Somehow, Dr. Leckman got Muhammad Yunus to come to Salt Lake City to have cataract surgery in 1997. And he called me up, Dr. Leckman, called me up and said, hey, I got this guy you might be interested in talking to. He's got some interesting ideas of how to deal with poverty. So he brought him by the Deseret News editorial board. And that's the first time I met him. I listened to what he had to say. I was overwhelmed by his ideas for helping alleviate poverty, which have been proven over and over again to work.
But when he came up with microcredit, that was kind of really out of the box thinking, wasn't it?
Well, because banks do not want to lend to very poor people with no collateral.
Right.
They still don't.
Typically, yeah, that's right.
So Dr. Yunus started what's called the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, and that's their sole purpose, is to loan money. And in some subsequent, this is the 5-part series I've written in subsequent parts of that series, I actually go to a village in Bangladesh where mostly Hindu women are making their payments on these loans. And I talk to some of them and get stories of how this has changed their lives. It's fascinating.
It is.
But he's in a difficult place now. A couple of weeks ago, he threatened to resign because he's getting so much pressure from the military, from political parties, from people who are perceiving there's some weakness there and they want to take advantage of it. For him to resign would be the nuclear option over there, because that would mean a complete power vacuum in Bangladesh, and it would probably lead to civil war. There are extreme Islamists over there who really want to take over and impose Sharia law. So you have a bunch of different competing factions. And when he made that threat, a lot of people took that very seriously and said, no, we don't want you to resign. His cabinet talked him out of it, I was told. But it's a precarious situation over there and a fascinating one. And he has an interesting plan for how to transition the country.
Well, talk to us more about that. Can you talk to us? Expand
Absolutely.
on what is his plan? How is he going to get this country that's been ruled by an autocrat for however many years, right? How is he going to get them to do free and fair elections?
So the first thing he did was he set up 15 separate reform commissions dealing with the judiciary, the military, with all, every aspect of public life in Bangladesh. They each came up with a list of recommendations for how to proceed. The next step is to get all the political parties. Now, again, there are some problems there. There is a party called the Awami League, which was in league with the former prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
They've been outlawed. He outlawed them because they're under investigation for their part in this massacre of the students.
Wow.
But he wants all the political parties to get together and look over these recommendations and sign off on the ones that they agree with. And then he can take where there's common ground amongst all political parties, and he can get them to sign what he calls the July Charter, which is in commemoration of the July Revolution last year. And then he says, look, going forward, you will be answerable to the people because you signed this document saying that you agreed to these freedoms. If you assume power in the next election and you don't follow through on those, the public can hold you accountable and say, look, you lied to us. You said you were going to do this and you didn't. So that's kind of the main thrust of what he wants to do going forward. But I asked him, I said, what has surprised you most in the time that you've taken over? And he said, the depth and breadth of corruption.
Wow.
Because it is everywhere in government. He says, if I can just get 10 to 15% of that taken care of, maybe it'll start a momentum that will lead going into the future.
Wow, that's really, that's such a heavy lift, right? I mean, Bangladesh has...
Will he actually be on the ballot then? If this April election, these things you're talking about, is he going to be nominee, I guess.
No, he's now, he'll be 85 later
So you
this
said
month.
with his age, right?
And he's not a politician. He really had to be talked into doing this, and so, but he's greatly loved by the people. Everyone.
That's what I'm
talked
thinking.
to.
He probably would win if he was on the ballot.
He might very well, but he doesn't have a political party. He's just kind of there on his own, and they have to elect a parliament and
Yeah. So if this is multiple parties, then it's a what's the right word for that type of government, right?
pluralistic.
Yeah, pluralistic government. So you're going to have proportional seats for the representation as people vote across the country.
Yes. And one of the problems he has is that the voter rolls are a mess because
I
for
bet.
15 years they haven't really had free elections. So he's trying to compile an accurate list of voters in the country, and it takes time. But now he said early April, and a lot of the parties are like, no, we want it now, especially the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, because they think they can win seats right now.
Well, snap elections happen other places, right? But it sounds like I just imagine trying to build coalitions with these many disparate groups is really a heavy lift. I hope you'll stick around with us. We're going to be right back in the next segment to talk to you some more about what's happening in Bangladesh.
I would love to. Thank you.
You know, in Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 5-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-8157. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-8157. That's 800-575-8157.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
And you're back with us on Inside Sources, and we are back with Jay Evenson, opinion editor of the Deseret News. Jay, I remember reading over the years about the country of Bangladesh and having the impression that it's probably, at least from what you hear, one of the poorest countries in the world. Can you just tell our listeners what it's like there? And maybe it's different now. Maybe things have changed, but it's one of those countries that you think about in terms of poverty and famine and just some of the horrors that they've had there over the last decades.
They've had a difficult time. It's a country in South Asia on the Bay of Bengal. It's between India and Myanmar, and it's a size roughly of about Iowa, but there are 171.5 million people in that area.
Million?
Million, yes. So, I mean, about half as many people as in the United States in a place the size of Iowa. It used to be known as East Pakistan, and in 1971 they fought a war for their independence, and India helped them militarily. So they've had a good relations with India for a long time. They won their independence from Pakistan. Pakistan's clear on the other side of India, so it didn't make a lot of sense to have them divided that way. So they became Bangladesh. Yes, they've had a lot of poverty and problems with that, but their economy has been growing. And they now have, I didn't see a lot of people starving. Certainly I saw people who were living, we went out into a village in the countryside, and there were a lot of farmers, rice paddies, that type of thing. But people seem to be able to make it. One of the things I'm getting into in another segment of this series is healthcare. They have a real nursing shortage there, and they don't have any regulated pharmacies. There are pharmacies all over these little villages and towns that will sell you expired medicine and give you drugs that just aren't very effective. So one of the things that Professor Yunus is trying to do through what he calls social businesses, to set up businesses that will bring healthcare to the people. We talked with the head of one of these organizations called Shuki, and they are trying to establish good, reputable pharmacies in these little towns, and they have a hotline. They have an app, first of all, and most people there do have smartphones. But you can either use your app or you can call on a landline and talk directly to a doctor for the equivalent, U.S. equivalent of about 15 cents, and get real sound advice, and they will let you know if you do need to go to a clinic. But many, many people in Bangladesh die every year without ever receiving any medical care, and likely die of things that were preventable or treatable.
Yeah, certainly. I know just with my experience there, women die in childbirth at a much higher rate than most of the rest of the world. It's one of the the countries, especially down in the refugee camps, right? They have a real shortage of care providers for pregnant women, and so Bangladesh has really come together to train midwives, both refugee midwives, but members of the local community as well. So it's one of the things I know that they've focused on, even from the humanitarian angle.
One of my favorite parts of this series is we went to a nursing college and met with the students there. They're trying to overcome this incredible nursing shortage, and nurses are it's not a very highly regarded profession, probably because of the malpractice that they've had in that country. So you've got all these young students, and it was so different from a university over here, because the minute we walked into a classroom as visitors, everything went quiet and all the students stood up at attention next to their desks. It's like something from the 19th century. It was wonderful. And then we would ask a question of them, and whoever would answer would raise their hand, and then they would stand up next to the desk and answer us very politely. I've got a lot of confidence in the future of Bangladesh. Its people are wonderful human beings, with a lot of drive and ambition and a belief in Bangladesh. There was a lot of national pride there. If we can just overcome some of the political problems that they have in that country.
Right.
Jay, you mentioned a name of the lending institution or the lending program.
Grameen Bank.
Yeah. So is it literally a bank, a national bank that's funded by the country? Or tell us how that works.
I believe it's funded by various investors. It started in the either late 1970s or early 1980s.
And they do these microloans.
They do microloans, and like I said, I was in this village. I got to look at the books. There was only about a 2% default rate on these loans.
Oh, wow.
But they have different types of loans. They even have beggar loans. There's a big problem in Bangladesh with begging. And it's in some families, it's been going on for generations. That's just what they're raised to do, is to go begging. And so they have loans they give to them to try to overcome that and start legitimate businesses. The default rate on those is considerably higher because they've got some real cultural cross currents they're trying to navigate. But the previous regime kicked Muhammad Yunus off of the board of directors of his bank because they said he was too old. And the irony was that the government official who kicked him off that board was older than he was.
Right. Of course.
What would be the pushback for this, though? I mean, what would the previous regime have cared about? I mean, it seems like such a great idea. I can't think of anything bad about it.
I have tried to find out. He might have been critical of her regime at some point. As I said, it wrote at one point, I think when you're trying to overcome poverty in a country run by an autocrat, you're trying to give people personal freedoms, trying to help them prosper and grow on their own, that autocrats don't like that.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned during the break is that this is a real capitalist approach, right?
Yes.
Even though we're talking about tiny dollar amounts, it's really the ability to help people get on their feet and be able to become self-sufficient, right, through some monetary interventions, right? Where it seems like, to me, a $20 donation doesn't go very far, right? You can maybe buy me lunch, right? But for these women, and it's largely women focused, it launches their businesses in a way that keeps them from literally what was loan sharking, right? I would say, where people say, okay, well, I'll loan you the money, but it's like 150% interest or whatever it is.
So you would end up making 10, 20 cents off of a bamboo.
And it can never get off. Yeah, you can never get out of the cycle.
I spoke to some women there who had been doing this for over 20 years, and they spoke to me with great pride about their children who are now going to college.
Right.
One of them had a son who was a cricketer in Bangladesh and was becoming well known, and she was so happy and so proud.
Meaning
of that.
playing cricket, the game, right?
Yes, not collecting crickets, but you could see the change in their lives, and it was just remarkable. So I think the United States ought to do all it can to help. And now one of the issues he's running up against is a threat of tariffs against Bangladesh from the Trump administration of about 34%, I think. They have a number of garment factories there that supply us with inexpensive clothing.
Yeah.
And this would really devastate that industry. They would have to lay people off.
I have clothes in my closet that say "Made in Bangladesh."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Jay, the story I'm reading says the first of a 5-part series. Tell us where it's going from here.
The next series, I talked to a politician in the Bangladesh Nationalist Party who has been beaten and tortured. She had both her knees broken by the previous regime. And I asked her the question, why do you keep doing it? Why do you stay in politics? And I think that's a real fascinating section. Then I will go in and talk about these women that we met in the small village who are receiving microloans. And the third segment will go into what's called social businesses, and we're talking about that healthcare business, the nursing college, other businesses that are put in place to solve a social need. And the fifth one, I talked to one of the revolutionaries who led the charge against the previous regime, and I talked to him about his hopes and dreams for the future of Bangladesh. And it's quite interesting, and it has to do with religious freedom and educational freedom, a broad, expansive view of what he wants for his country.
Wow.
And considering those leaders, I think, are building the foundation of the future of Bangladesh, it's something we need to really pay attention to.
We'll look forward to reading those, Jay. We'll look forward to having you regular with us, hopefully on Mondays from now on.
Love it. Absolutely.
Wonderful. When we come back after the break, one of Elizabeth Smart's abductors, Wanda Barzee, was back in court today for violating her agreement with the Sex Offender Registry. We'll talk about that after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. The Weber County Sheriff's Office says a canine officer died over the weekend. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
Their canine named Nova was just about to turn 2 years old, and she had been training to detect illegal drugs and doing quite well, according to the Weber County Sheriff's Department's Facebook page. But on Saturday, they say she had an unexpected medical condition and she passed away. Now, they haven't given any more details other than saying she was loved and will not be forgotten.
Nova joined the sheriff's office team last November. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Warner Brothers Discovery is going back to Warner Brothers and Discovery. ABC Sherry Preston explains.
Just 3 years ago in 2022, Warner Media and Discovery Communications merged, and now the two companies are unmerging. Going forward, one company, which will be called Global Networks, will focus on cable offerings, CNN, TNT, TBS, and multiple Warner cable companies. The other company, referred to as Streaming and Studios, will include HBO and HBO Max, as well as Warner Brothers TV and Movie Studios and DC Studios. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, Dow up 40 points. Coming up, highs stay in the 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
1847. Our home Utah takes shape. A century later, Utah's home champion is born. Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has earned the trust of over 250,000 Utah homeowners, with techs who rise above to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Championing the spirit of 47, Whipple is offering $47 off any home repair or service, including drain clearings. Act now and call Whipple Service Champions at 801-896-1947 for the win today.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Overall, looking pretty quiet out there. Northbound I-15 all the way through the heart of the valley in good shape. Southbound I-15, though, we continue to have a little bit of slowing. This is going between Kaysville and the Farmington split right around Shepherd Lane. Still don't have a cause for those delays. Take UTA instead of driving and actually enjoy your ride. Try UTA to see the difference. Plan your trip at rideuta.com or on the Transit app. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures are staying warm. We're looking at highs about 10 degrees above the normal for this time of year. Could see some showers along the Wasatch Front tomorrow and Wednesday. Right now it's 79 degrees and fair. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
After violating her agreement as a registered sex offender, one of Elizabeth Smart's abductors was back in court today facing her charges. Wanda Barzee is facing 2 misdemeanor charges of violating the Sex Offender Registry Act. Ed Smart, Elizabeth's father, spoke with Dave Dujanovic shortly after Barzee's arrest last week about his concerns.
You know, our concern really is that she doesn't have an opportunity of harming another child. So really the bottom line, you know, when you hear about California releasing all these sex offenders, this is something that, happens all over the place. The issue is, can we keep the children safe? When she starts using the terms, God told me to, I think that we can't allow that excuse to, condone her behavior. And if she gets the ankle bracelet put back on her and continues to violate that, then she should go back to jail.
Elizabeth Smart weighed in on it as well.
Personally, this situation for me, I turn back to the advice my own mother gave me the day after I was rescued, where she said, they've already stolen 9 months of your life away from you. Do not let them steal another second. You need to move forward with your life and you need to be happy. And I have always tried to follow that advice to the best of my ability. So although this situation has arisen, I refuse to live my life in fear.
So, Holly, Wanda Barzee was charged and convicted with the abduction and the assault of Elizabeth Smart many years ago. She served her time in prison. She went on parole. She served her parole, and so some people are asking what's going on now. Well, based on her offense at that time, she was placed on our sex offender registry for life. That is to say, she will never get off of that.
Right.
And so the allegations are fairly straightforward, and that is that on April 9th and in May 1st of this year, she simply went to a park. One of them was Sugar House Park and one was Liberty Park. She admitted that to her, to the sex offender registry individuals that were interviewing her. She admitted that she'd gone to the park, and that's a crime. It's not a serious crime. It's a Class A misdemeanor for a first offense, but it could be enhanced if there are future violations. She appeared in court today, and our own Adam Small was there. Adam, walk us through that court appearance. It had to be really bizarre.
I was a little taken back because, I mean, when you're going to these court hearings, when it's basically these large, a judge will sit there and take case after case after case every 1 to 2 minutes because they're all just initial hearings. People are read their charges, and Wanda was sitting just a few rows from me, walks up with her attorney when her name is called, and I didn't even know it was her because the most recent picture I had seen of her was from like 15 years ago. So, I mean, she's obviously, her appearance has changed quite a bit. But she was in street clothes. Her name was called up. The judge read her charges, those 2 misdemeanors that you've already mentioned. And really, it took about 2 minutes. The judge basically asked her and her attorney, hey, are you keeping in touch with, and maybe, Greg, you can elaborate on this because I'm not as familiar, because I'm not in the court as often as you are, but basically saying your case manager, your program manager, like the person she's legally required to report to on however often she's required to, basically a sex offender, like case manager, like, are you in contact with your, like the person over your case? And she, seemed a little flustered, about answering the question, which you would be. I mean, you're in open court. You're being questioned by a district court judge. You're facing charges. But her attorney kind of steps in and is like, yeah, she's in contact with them. As far as I can recall, he actually said that she's in contact almost on a daily basis, which seems pretty frequent. But then from there, they were like, okay, you're stay in contact with them. And the judge was like, okay, let's set a scheduling conference. This is where they'll, it's basically just the next process in the case. And that's not going to happen until late July. And that's really all that happened. She came in, she came out, she went home. So
we're talking to KSL News Radio reporter Adam Small. And Adam, she was with her attorney, Scott Williams, who represented her decades ago in her prior case. I assume that he filed an appearance today. He's going to be her attorney. I don't know if you went through the machinations of this, but typically a person like her would have gotten a public defender. He's probably helping her pro bono. I don't know if that was mentioned or talked about at all. And you also said that she walked in and walked out. In other words, she didn't have to post bail. Is that right?
As far as I can understand, yeah, because they didn't, like the judge didn't even ask a question regarding bail. It really does sound like, even though she was booked on charges, it doesn't sound like she actually went or like spent a night in jail or had to post bail or anything like that. Because, I mean, it's been a long time since Wanda's been accused of any kind of violation like this. And as far as I've been told, she's not even on probation parole anymore. And so at this point, she seems to be out on her own recognizance. And I believe that, Greg, you had mentioned at one point that this sex offender violation isn't a jailable offense, which means, yeah, she was in street clothes. Like, she came in person and she made her appearance, and as she's legally obligated to do, and went home.
Well, I should correct that. It is a jailable offense. It's not an offense, and you're right, Adam, that a person would typically get jail. But these are both Class A misdemeanors. They carry up to a year in jail, a fine of up to $2,500 for a first offense. She's not in custody now, which tells me, Adam, that the state's probably not all that concerned about whether or not she could go to jail. I'm looking at her date of birth in 1945, so she's 80 years old now, and she must have appeared pretty frail.
Yeah, I mean, for someone who's about 80 years old, I mean, she looked about as healthy as you could. I mean, she's got short white hair now, but I mean, she's walking. She's not using a cane or a walker or anything like that. She seems relatively in good shape for her age. But yeah, like I said, I didn't even know I was sitting as close to her as I was, because I mean, like I said, all of our file photos that we've been sharing on our reporting in this are from like 15 years ago. So it's just, appearance has changed. Her hair's pretty pure white now, but I mean, she seems to be able to move around and take care of herself. So
did the court read the charges at all? Because I'm looking at them, they're fairly simple, Adam. They just that on April 9th, she attended Liberty Park, and on May 1st or sometime later than that, she went to Sugar House Park. Actually, it looks like they were both about the same day. Did the court talk about the facts of the case or anything like that?
They didn't go through any of the details, like, what the arresting officer had written in the arresting documents or anything like that. They mostly were, the judge just went over, hey, here are the 2 charges. Do you understand these? And then just a little bit of that Q&A, like are you keeping in touch with your case manager, things like that. And then they just immediately moved to schedule that's what they call a scheduling conference. And again, that's going to be July 21st. So it will be a little bit before we do see her in court again.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today, Adam. I really appreciate your insight, being right there in the courtroom. Greg, I do have a question for you. What's going to happen now? It sounds like this was just one step in a process that's going to unfold over several months, it sounds like.
Right. So because it's a Class A misdemeanor, which is our most serious misdemeanor, she's entitled to what's called a preliminary hearing. We used to think of those just as limited to felonies, but they're a person who's accused of a crime punishable by a year or more, and a Class A is punishable by a year, is entitled to a preliminary hearing. But prior to that, the court scheduled a scheduling conference. So she'll be in court, as Adam indicated, looks like toward the end of July. She'll be told to answer to whether or not she wants to have this preliminary hearing or not. I haven't really answered your question yet, but what's the end result? And that is this, and I guess I shouldn't guess, but she's charged with 2 misdemeanors. She's certainly served her time. The fact that she's not in custody now is a little bit telling. Typically, if the state is looking at jail, they will ask for some bail or say, look, let's just hold her in jail because she's going to do some time anyway. She might as well get her clock started. So she'll probably be placed back on some level of probation. Maybe she'll have something like electronic monitoring so that they can watch her more closely and see where she goes. She may serve some jail, some modest jail or something like that. I mean, she's a convicted felon. She has a very, very serious prior record.
Sure.
But she's 80 years old, and I wouldn't say she's harmless because she did go to a park where she shouldn't have been, and I know she's made some allegations that she was told by God or something to go there, and so she may have some mental health issues as well. I expect that this case will be resolved in a way that that gives the public some comfort that she's not going to be hanging around at the parks, that will give her some knowledge that, hey, you need to be more careful, and you need to be careful how you handle the sex offender registry. It's something that's going to follow you for the rest of your life, and just stay away from parks.
Right.
When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about another criminal case. This is the mistakenly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is now being returned to the U.S. to face prosecution on new federal charges. Stay with us.
It's been so important in this news show to hear how the news is impacting you.
Midday.
How this is really going to impact your life or your children's safety or your husband's job. To hear that wow moment from you.
Midday with Maria Chaleos.
I invite you to join us from noon to 3 right here on KSL News Radio.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. Recently, 300 residents of Chelsea, Michigan, turned up to help a local bookstore move. They formed a human chain from the old location to the new location and passed almost 10,000 books to help this business. What a great community. You will spend much of your life in a work community. It might be a not my problem kind of a place, or it might be let's help each other always kind of a place. I saw a CEO helping on the loading dock, a foreman picking up a hammer, and a senior editor writing copy just to help when it was needed. Those actions don't just help in hard times, they create the kind of work communities we all want to be a part of. Learn more about healthy work communities in an MBA program from Utah State. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
We were living in a townhome, renting at the time. We were ready to own our own house. Once we found a realtor, a world of possibilities opened up to us. We found a house that we really wanted, but we thought at first that it might be out of our price range, that we couldn't afford it. Our realtor was able to introduce us to state programs that help first-time home buyers, such as a state grant and state help to lower the interest rate. In the end, she made it possible so that we could buy a home.
Let an experienced realtor guide you. Go to myrealtorstory.com.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run. Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Dive into 2025's best family fun at the Ute Stampede Rodeo with Extreme Bulls. The Ute Stampede is Utah's best family entertainment, honoring the rich heritage and the spirit of the West. 3 nights of PRCA rodeo, Flying U rodeo, live music, food carnivals, and plenty of rodeo showmanship. Experience gold medal competition topped off with huge prize money. Witness epic battles of man versus beast. Wednesday, July 9th with Extreme Bulls. Special package pricing available. Visit UtestampedeRodeo.com.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6580. That's 800-583-6580.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
You might remember the name Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador a few months ago. He is now being returned to the United States to face prosecution on 2 federal charges. He has been accused of participating in a trafficking conspiracy over several years to move undocumented migrants from Texas to other parts of the country. The charges, dating back to 2016, allege that he transported thousands of undocumented individuals between Texas, Maryland, and other states. Holly, this is a name we hadn't heard from a while. And actually, I think we heard from the president of El Salvador saying, you're not getting him back. He's in our custody, and we intend to keep him. Suddenly, he's back.
Not only that, you had Pam Bondi who said he's never coming back. He's never going to come back to the United States. We're not going to allow him to reenter. And then you had President Trump, of course, say, you know what? I don't have any ability to bring him back. He's out of our jurisdiction, and sorry, nothing we can do. But here he is, back in the country.
Yeah, and he's facing a 2-count grand jury indictment, which was filed in Tennessee last month. It's a federal indictment. And unsealed Friday, he was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to transport aliens and a 2nd count of unlawful transportation of undocumented aliens. One thing that struck me about this is that the charges date back to 2016. Now, I think as an attorney, there's always a statute of limitations on cases. Maybe this particular crime has a 10-year statute. I don't know. But that's a long time ago. And it's also something that he stayed under the radar. Nobody charged him with that until he got deported, and he became part of the national scene. Now, all of a sudden, he's much more interesting than he was a couple months ago.
Right, and I think that was part of the argument, right, is he had not had any due process at all, and he hadn't had any charges filed against him before he was deported. And, of course, he's got his family who has said about him that he fled El Salvador because he was being terrorized. His family was being terrorized by local gangs. And so he has created a life for himself in the United States, fleeing terror, right? And then now has become part of all of this national narrative.
Yeah. In fact, he had appeared before an immigration judge years ago, and he was in the country without proper documentation. But the immigration judge in that particular case, Holly, said you can be deported, but you cannot be deported to El Salvador, of all countries, where he ended up getting deported to, because he faced persecution there.
Right.
And the immigration judge said, okay, that's one country that's King's X that you're not going to go back to. And apparently that prison, and we've talked about this before, in El Salvador is just horrible. But he's back now. He's facing charges here. And I think that our U.S. attorney, Pam Bondi, is going to say this: we're going to prosecute him. We're going to convict him of this crime if it happened, and he's going to serve his time, and then he will be deported to El Salvador. So I guess be careful what you ask for, Mr. Garcia, because the U.S. government has decided that there were charges, there were things he could have been charged with, because he had always said, and his wife had always said, his family had always said, he wasn't involved with this gang. He wasn't involved in MS-13.
Right.
But apparently the federal authorities think otherwise.
Well, right. And they'll have their chance in court, right? And I guess that's the process. And you're the legal expert, but that's the process. And they'll have a chance to make their case, and he'll have a chance to make his.
Right. He'll get the due process that he claims he didn't get before. Now, he'll certainly get an attorney, probably a public defender. He's scheduled to appear for an arraignment, which is the first hearing in the federal court system, on June 13th, which is, 4 days away. So he must be either here in the country or on his way before United States Magistrate Judge Barbara Holmes. And that will be what they call a detention hearing as well as an arraignment. Arraignment is where you say guilty or not guilty. Detention is also where they decide under what factors they'll take into account in deciding whether a person will be held in custody. He will almost certainly be held in custody. And it also depends, and I don't know these particular charges because we don't see these very often, what the potential prison is for those. Conspiracy to transport aliens and unlawful transportation of undocumented aliens. I've got to assume that those are felonies, but to me they would seem to be fairly low-level felonies, maybe 5 or 10 year. I mean, I could look it up. Potential prison sentence. I would assume the federal government's going to ask for his detention. The judge will have to make the determination because he doesn't seem to have a prior criminal history. At least that's what everyone was saying when he got deported in the first place, that, hey, this is a guy who's not involved in gangs. On the other hand, if he's here and he's here without proper documentation, maybe you'd have no choice but to hold him.
I think one of my questions was why Tennessee, and I see this answer is in 2022, he was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol for speeding, but the vehicle that he was in had 8 other people in it and no luggage. So he the officer said that he suspected him of human trafficking, although he said he was driving from Texas to Maryland for construction work and no citations were issued at the time.
Yeah, and what's happened since, and this is, I'm kind of reading between the lines, is one of the individuals that was in that car allegedly has got problems of his own, and he was in federal custody, and he went to the authorities and said, hey, and you always cut a deal. You always got the chance to make a deal. I can give you Abrego Garcia's head on a platter if you can make me a deal here to get me out of this prison. So if that's the case, Holly, that certainly makes the credibility of that informant suspect. But on the other hand, a carload of people, no luggage, what's going on here? It didn't seem to be a problem for the law enforcement officer that stopped the car at the time. But now looking back, given his history, at least what people assume about his history, they're putting 2 and 2 together, and they've also got this informant who is, like I said, arguably, from what I understand, he's in custody. He's got problems of his own. He's now come forward and said, no, we were transporting people.
Yeah, we'll watch this play out, of course, because his name has become familiar. His case has become familiar, I think, to people across the United States. And there are multiple other deportation and re-importation. Is that a word? It's probably not.
Right. I don't know.
Cases going on, right, where they're claiming there was no due process and they're being brought back into the United States. Some of them brought back and released, as I understand, but some of them to face a court system in the United States.
I have to assume that the Trump administration, who had a little bit of a sort of besmirched record for deporting him without due process, now can say, but he's going to get his due process now.
Right.
We did bring him back.
Right.
We facilitated his return to the United States.
Right.
And we've told you all along he was a bad guy. I think those are the words that Trump used to define him. He's a bad guy, and now he's going to face the music. So it could give, if he's convicted, and of course he's presumed innocent, it could give the administration a little bit of a leg up in terms of what they were doing and when he was sent to this El Salvadoran prison in the first place.
Yeah, and at the same time, right, one of his congressmen from Maryland said, look, the point here is more about the process even than the man, right? He wasn't even saying we know for sure he's innocent, because we don't know that because there has been no due process, right? But that people have the right to due process within the United States.
So he was deported on March 15th. What's that? Almost 3 months ago. March, April, May, June.
Right.
Yeah, and he's been in that El Salvadoran prison since then. The administration invoked what they called at the time the Alien Enemies Act, which was an act that the administration said we're at war with El Salvador. We're at war with these gang members, more specifically the MS-13 gang, and so we don't have to go through the normal deportation proceedings, due process proceedings, that type of thing, because these are people from an enemy country, and so we're going to deport him outright. I am surprised that he's being brought back, but maybe the pressure on the administration to do that was so great that they felt like they had no choice, and they also had the hook that, well, if he comes back, we can charge him.
It's not just pressure. There have been judicial decisions coming down saying that they actually needed to bring people back and let them go through the due process.
Right. And there was some confusion. You're exactly right. And it was interesting because the Supreme Court said the administration will facilitate his return.
Right.
And one of the courts said facilitate and effectuate, and the Supreme Court said no, just facilitate. So what that meant to some people was like, well, you don't really have to go through with it. You just have to make it available. You make it happen if you can get around to it. But now that they've got these charges against him, it made it a whole lot easier to have him brought back into the country, and he'll face those charges, and we'll follow those fairly closely. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk, we talked earlier about in this show, went into it at some depth, about the weekend protests in Los Angeles that led President Trump to deploy the National Guard. We're going to talk, and maybe talk, Holly and I, about what would happen here if that happened in Salt Lake City. Heaven forbid. It is not likely to, but who knows? We'll talk about that after the break.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A brand new festival kicks off this week in Salt Lake City. The Eden Arts Festival begins with 2 concerts at the Tracy Aviary.
Founder and CEO Julia Leviton says her festival will combine film, music, gaming, and nature into a never-before-seen event. Leviton says she's dedicated to making this a family-friendly sanctuary. Next year, the Eden Arts Festival will stretch to 2 weeks in length and incorporate a youth orchestra along with local filmmakers. She projects the festival will bring in $130 million for Utah.
KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly there. You can read more about the festival on our website at kslnewsradio.com. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. California Governor Newsom has threatened to sue the Trump administration over the president's decision to send the National Guard to L.A. to deal with ongoing protests over ICE raids.
Ventura County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff's Department also come in. And then, of course, they have the National Guard staged at different parts of Los Angeles. The mayor saying, though, that she is encouraging those that want to protest peacefully to do so rightfully, to express their messaging, express their concerns. But the LAPD chief, while he was noting that there were several protests that were conducted in the right manner, he called these other acts of violence disgusting.
ABC's Melissa Ada reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 99 points, the S&P is up 14 points. And coming up, a high of 92 today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
It's springtime in the Rockies, and it's time to apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. Take advantage of spring storms with an application of Revive now. Protect yourself from drought later this summer and skyrocketing water costs. With Revive, if you water 2 times a week, it's like watering 4. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
You're stubborn. Okay, be stubborn. Don't admit you have hearing issues, but they won't go away. You'll just suffer with them. But you don't have to suffer. My Hearing Centers will fit you with a high-tech hearing aid that's powerful and barely noticeable. So if you're suffering from hearing loss, or if you have a hearing aid but it's 3 years or older, you owe it to yourself to schedule a free consultation at My Hearing Centers by calling 801-438-7058. With locations from Ogden to St. George, be smart, not stubborn, with My Hearing Centers.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. It is time for our annual spring clearance sale at Arctic Spas. Tons of hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, saunas, and cold tubs all on sale at up to $7,500 off. Yes, up to $7,500 off. Just in time for the summer fun to begin. Plus, we have a few models left over from last year, like an Arctic Spa Polaris, a 7-foot by 7-foot with 40 massaging jets, 2 pumps, ozone water purification, UV water purification, multicolored LED lights, and a waterfall, now discounted to $89.95. Swim spas starting out at $19,995. This brings a pool to your backyard all year long, but especially for the family fun this summer. Comfort and convenience is on sale with our automated saltwater system. Or save even more with almost new refurbished Arctic Spas from years past. Start out online at ArcticSpasUtah.com to pick out your favorite spa. Then stop by one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah: Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Incredible savings on all Bernina machines at Dave's Bernina in Provo and St. George.
Don't miss our sun-kissed savings, such as $200 to $400 off machines $2,000 to $5,000, $500 to $700 off machines $5,000 to $8,000, $800 to $1,000 discounts on machines $8,000 to $15,000. And get $1,500 savings on machines $15,000 and up. Plus a limited time offer of 2.99% interest for 60 months on certain machines.
Come in now for bargains on trade-ins, classroom, and demo machines that come with warranties.
The Burnett 33 machine is only $199 and the Burnett Academy $349.
Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
With a discount up to $1,500.
Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Dave'sBernina.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have an accident. This is in West Valley City, southbound Bangerter Highway, just before the 201 junction. That right lane is blocked to traffic. Also, slowdowns in Davis County. This is southbound I-15 as you go from the Kaysville Ponds down to Farmington by Lagoon. The Good Feet store, supporting you with comfort no matter what the day brings. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the 90s all week long. We'll see a high of 92 today, 94 tomorrow. Mostly sunny to sunny skies into the weekend. Right now it is 83 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson. And Holly, we started the show this morning going to the protests in L.A., and they have continued. The sparring between Trump and Newsom has continued even as the show's been progressing.
That's right.
But let's just hear some sound from President Trump.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
He always goes back to the auto pen.
Well, right. And we're going to have troops everywhere. I mean, that's a little concerning to me.
Yeah, it's very concerning to Gavin Newsom. It's very concerning to the mayor of Los Angeles. It's very concerning to some of the people in Los Angeles. But the protesters created their own problems here. This was something that didn't need to get to this point, but for the acts of some of the protesters who went violent, who turned over some cars, who burned some cars, and who got the administration in a place they wanted to be, which was to say, now we have a justification, now we have a reason to bring in federal troops. And Trump did what he says, federalize the National Guard, the California National Guard, and say, you're ours now, and we're sending you in, and you're going to make sure that the streets of Los Angeles are safe. And some people in Los Angeles are saying you did just the opposite.
Right, that they inflamed what was going on, right, and that people were trying to do peaceful protesting during the day, and then we have the National Guard, and then we have tear gas, and we have rubber bullets, and it has continued to escalate. So one of the things I think that's interesting is that there have been some threats about arresting Gavin Newsom, and he just says, "Come after me."
Oh yeah, he
come
said,
after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn.
Ouch.
Right.
Don't do that to Donald Trump, Gavin.
Well, and then what happened though later today is President Trump said, "Yeah, I hope Tom," meaning Tom Homan, "I hope he does arrest him. That sounds like a great idea." And then Newsom responds, of course, using social media, saying, "The President of the United States just called for the arrest of a sitting governor. This is a day I hoped I would never see in America. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. This is a line we cannot cross as a nation."
Yeah, and you wonder what the rest of the country's watching when they see these two men. In the same respect that we talked earlier about Trump and Elon Musk.
Right?
You know, we've got these two powerful men. You've got the governor of the largest, richest state in the country, and you've got the president of the United States, who are sparring over how the federal government has chosen to respond to the state of California, and specifically the Los Angeles area's response to the immigration issue that's going on there. And what happened at its core, just to bring our listeners back, is protesters were gathering around and protesting some ICE agents who were hooking up some individuals that were there was a group at the Home Depot, and there was another private store, private business that they were arresting people that were coming out of, who they thought were there for day work, for part-time work, and who they believed were here undocumented. So ICE went in, hooked them up, and people seeing that, just the people on the street, were like, wait a minute, and started protesting and started arguing and started getting in the face of these ICE agents, and it got worse and worse and worse. And Los Angeles and California both felt like they had it under control. Trump said no, brought in the National Guard, and before the break, I said, what if this happened in Utah? First of all, I don't think there's any chance this would ever happen in Utah. I don't see it.
Well, I don't know.
Because
Maybe
I don't know that Trump
President Gavin Newsom next go around.
There you go. That might be true. But I don't know that President Trump has that kind of animosity towards Spencer Cox, maybe, as he does.
Well, I don't think it would happen under a Trump administration, but maybe the next administration, right? I think that's one of the issues that people need to think about when they say, well, it's just those guys, right? And that kind of brings me back to the Dignity Index, actually, which is one of the things I'm particularly passionate about. But if they can do this to quote unquote other people, if all you're saying is, well, those are the bad guys, right? We're lumping people together in a category. Well, the reality is most of the people who were there were peacefully protesting. We have that right in the United States to peacefully protest, right? And that people were doing that. And when you start to group an entire, whether it's a geographic area or it's a religion or it's a race, right? You lump them all together and say, well, they are the bad guys. That can always be turned back against us.
Sure. And Gavin Newsom is describing this, Holly, as a breach of state sovereignty. In other words, what he's saying is, this is our problem.
Right.
These are our streets.
Right.
These are our law enforcement officers, and we can handle it. And you coming in, the federal government coming in and intervening in that, is an absolute violation of this Posse Comitatus Act, part of the Reconstruction Act, and saying that law specifically precludes exactly what you're doing here, exactly what you're saying in the federal military. I'm reading the act. It's very short. The federal military may not be used to intervene in state police powers. That's basically what it says.
Right.
Is this the federal military coming in to intervene in state police powers? It certainly appears like that on its face.
It
on
does.
the other hand, Title 10 of the United States Code provides that the president can activate the National Guard in emergency situations.
Right. Right. And that was a question, right? Has he declared a state of emergency? I mean, he has said this is an emergency. He has said these are insurrectionists, but he has stopped short of actually calling it an insurrection. But I think one of the things that's interesting is we have red states, Republican states, who talk about the 10th Amendment all the time, states' rights, right? The state should be able to decide what we do in our own state. Well, now you have a blue state governor, Governor Newsom of California, invoking the same thing, saying we should be able to determine what we do in our own state. But in this case, President Trump said, nope, I'm not listening to you.
What do you think that we can take from this fact also? That this is the first time since the 1960s, so in the last 60 years,
right,
that the federal government has called up troops without a governor's consent. I mean, that's quite a stretch. And for this particular thing, it seems like, I mean, it's bad what's going on there. Don't get me wrong. I don't like looking at these riots and what's happening. But was this the 1 in 60-year opportunity or obligation for the federal government to come in and say, hey, knock it off?
Yeah, and I would argue maybe not, right? So again, the mayor of LA and the governor of the California have said we were handling this, right? And they said it may have escalated to a point where we would have requested it, but we did not request this assistance. The LAPD did not request assistance. They felt like they had things under control. And now it's been escalated on both sides, I think. Both sides feel justified in saying, well, it's escalated. Well, yes, now it is.
Yeah, and I think that the administration is going to say, well, it's escalated, so we had to jump in.
Right.
And the governor is going to say, well, it wasn't escalated until you jumped in. And now you've created a situation that got way out of hand. Yeah, I mean, back to the whole Utah thing. I guess if you were thinking of some protest at the, we're talking about getting nuclear energy here, of maybe people protesting that, or the Glen Canyon Dam or something like that. I just can't see a situation. Although we had those protests up at the University of Utah involving the Palestinian thing.
I mean,
that when we saw law enforcement there get a little bit aggressive with some individuals, and some people being concerned that the police, I won't call out any specific agency, were a little bit heavy-handed. I'm not sure they were not. I'm not describing that. But boy, was that a situation that had it gone much further, the federal government would have come in, or the Utah National Guard shows up at the University of Utah and says, "Hey, wait a minute, we got this under control."
That's really a scenario I have not put any real thought into, but it's deeply concerning if that were to be the case.
Yeah. Next on line is Utah's First Lady, Abby Cox. She'll be joining us to discuss a show-up for Service Fair happening today at Thanksgiving Point. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 5-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-471 471-9773. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-471-9773. 800-471-9773. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with, call Big Lou at 800-471-9773 or biglou.com. That's 800-471-9773 or biglou.com.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon
and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. At the heart of every organization, you will find efficient employees. They are the face of the business and the connection to clients. Unfortunately, all employees will face difficult life challenges at some stage. Blomquist Hale is a solution. CEO Cameron McBride joins us with more.
Now more than ever, organizations are realizing the importance of helping their employees deal with everyday mental health needs. Did you know that 1 in 4 people deal with a significant life issue each year? Blomquist Hale can help with that. Blomquist Health Solutions is an employee assistance program that provides a personalized and complete mental health package for organizations and employees across the state of Utah. When partnering with Blomquist Health Solutions, your employees will have access to the most proactive and advanced mental health program offered. The Blomquist Health benefit includes in-person or virtual visits, 24/7 crisis services, supervisor consultations, online and in-person trainings, dedicated organizational support, and more. We are dedicated to fulfilling our mission and upholding our values of genuine care, responsive service, earning trust, professionalism, supportive environment, and future-driven. Contact us to learn how Blomquist Health Solutions is a valuable mental health solution for your organization and its employees.
When life gets challenging, Blomquist Health Solutions can help by providing direct, face-to-face guidance to address virtually any type of problem or stressful issue. For more information, visit the Blomquist Hale website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
The new Inside Sources.
Welcome back to the new Inside Sources. As I figure out my buttons, I want to ask you a question before we introduce our next guest, Holly, and that is, what is the show up for Summer Service Fair? You said you're going to it today.
I am, and I've been before. So this is really an initiative of Utah's First Lady, Abby Cox, who will join us. But this is literally an opportunity to go find out what nonprofits have available for service projects during the summer. So you literally can take your family and you can say, hey, I'm really interested in XYZ, and they'll have people there with different opportunities for you to serve, and you can go around and decide, what organization is it that I want to be able to volunteer with.
Well, let's bring our First Lady in and find out more about it. First Lady Abby Cox, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Did you know this is our first show, our kickoff show?
I'm so excited about this. We've been friends for a long time, and I think the world of both of you, and it's going to be an amazing show. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And tell us more about this show up for Service Fair.
It's like Holly said, this is an opportunity. Utahns are incredibly generous with their time, with their resources. It's always been that way, but it's not always going to be that way if we're not very intentional about making sure that our next generation understands how important service is to our state, to our families, and to our own mental health and well-being. And so for us, it's an opportunity for over 60 nonprofits to be at Thanksgiving Point Electric Park. It's carnival atmosphere. It's lots of fun. There's lots of things for your families to come and do and have fun. But the biggest part of it is making sure that our families have an opportunity to serve with each of these different nonprofits throughout the summer. A lot of us are getting our kiddos home. School's out. It's time for us to really think about the importance of course, we want to keep our kids active. We want to keep them safe. And the best thing we can do is teach them that service is a big part of our state and the best thing they can do in the summer.
I really appreciate that. And, one of the things that I have really appreciated about your First Lady initiatives is how focused they are on service. And I know the governor and Lieutenant Governor have also focused on service, but your whole thing is about showing up. And it's just been such a topic so near and dear to my heart. I just love it. Can you give us an example of maybe some of the opportunities for families to volunteer that they might find out about tonight?
Yes, thank you. It is all about showing up, and as a state, we're really good at that. If we know there's a problem in our neighborhood, with our friends, with somebody in our congregation, we are really good at showing up. Sometimes we just don't know the needs, and there's a lot of times where families want to serve and don't know the best places. So this is such a great opportunity for us to connect families that want to serve with the nonprofits that have opportunities. So what we have there is, if you're really interested in helping refugees, there are refugee organizations. If you are really interested in helping with child welfare, there are child welfare organizations there. If you are interested in pets or animal welfare, there are those organizations there. If you are interested in packing food kits, weekend kits, summer kits for children in school districts, there are people there to help you to find a project there. So whatever your passions are, wherever you're interested, wherever your kids, you feel like they will make the biggest difference, that's where we are going to connect you with these incredible nonprofits. We have thousands of nonprofits throughout the state, and there will be 60 plus there tonight that you can connect with.
And we're talking about tonight from 4 to 8 p.m. at Thanksgiving Point. If people want to go, I see that it says get your tickets here, but it looks like they're free. Am I right?
They are free. The tickets are free, and that helps us to understand how many are coming and how we can help the nonprofits connect with them. And it's also the reason we would love a ticket is because if they will be drawings, and when you do your service project at home with your friends, with your family, if you upload that to our website, showuputah.org, you are going to be able to be in the running for additional prizes. It really is this fun opportunity to get kids involved and make it really exciting for them to see not only are they going to get the benefits of service, they might win a prize.
That's awesome. On your website, which is showuputah.org, you say this, and I've heard you say it in public multiple times. You can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Utahns are known for. We're known for getting in there and showing up. A lot of times, we see the need and we want to show up, but we just don't know how. And I think that's why a lot of us feel a little bit paralyzed. Like we see the needs, and sometimes the needs are, national or international, and we're seeing these world events and we don't know what to do. And, I recently met with Melinda French Gates, and I have read and talked with Sharon Eubank, some of the real icons of serving internationally. And what it comes down to, what they all say is the best thing you can do is look close to you, look in your neighborhoods, look around you and see who you can serve. That helps us. It helps us grow. It helps us we're closer to the people there that we can serve more effectively in our neighborhoods and in our state. That is the best way for each of us to feel like we are making the world a better place when we see so many really hard events.
We're talking this afternoon with Utah First Lady Abby Cox about the Show Up for Summer Service Affair this afternoon from 4 to 8 p.m. at Thanksgiving Point. How did you get the vendors? How were you able to get the people that are coming there to show us what people can do to sign up for this service?
Well, a lot of our nonprofits throughout the state kind of toil in obscurity, and so really I've been over the last 4.5 years going on nonprofit visits about every few months, and I am meeting people that are doing this work. And what's kind of been a real unexpected thing that we found out when we first did this is that the nonprofits are connecting with each other as well, which makes them more powerful. When you're in a space where you know other people are doing this work, you're sharing best practices, you're sharing understandings, you're sharing sort of what the layout looks like in your space. And so that's a real profit, that we didn't expect. And what we're seeing is that we're powerful together, we're more powerful. And then what we do is expose these opportunities to families and individuals throughout the state that want to connect with them. And so to me, it's getting out there, finding who these people are, then connecting them with each other and with the people that are ready to serve.
Thank you so much. I'm planning on dropping by today. I hope I can see you in person. And thank you for joining us and really for helping Utahns understand how to show up for each other.
Thank you, Holly. I'm excited to see you there.
Thank you.
That sounds like a really great cause, Holly. I'm glad you're going there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is. There's so
I
many
hadn't even heard of
opportunities.
it. I hadn't even heard of it until I started reading about it. And the more I hear about it, and the more, like you say, people that are showing up to help families sign up, I mean, it seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, look, I'm going to pivot just one tiny degree and just say it's one of the things I hope we can talk about more on this show as we have, we're taking over this new time slot for Inside Sources, but I want the opportunity to be able to share with our listeners ways that they can reach out and help within our communities in Utah because it's so important.
And it's a great idea. And there's so much going on in the world right now that isn't necessarily uplifting.
Right?
That ending with something like this is the greatest. Well, our first day is behind us, Holly. That was great. It was a lot of fun. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I will come back.
All
yes.
right, that's wonderful. Midday is up next, and we don't have Maria Chaleos today. We have Britt Johnson standing in for Maria Chaleos. Stay right here on KSL Radio for all of today's latest news.
And thank you for joining us. It's really fun to be in studio with you, Greg, as the legal expert, now a co-host 3 hours a day. And I'm really excited to be here.
I am too.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time, 12 o'clock. This is Midday.